Good morning and welcome to today's New York City Council hearing for the Good morning and welcome to today's New York City Council hearing for the Committee on Civil and Human Rights. At this time, we ask that you please silence all cell phones and electronic devices to minimize disruptions throughout the hearing. If you have testimony you wish to submit for the record, you may do so via email at testimony@council.nyc.gov. Once again, that is testimony@council.nyc.gov. At any time throughout the hearing, do not approach the dais. We thank you for your cooperation. Chair, we are ready to begin.
Thank you so much, Sergeant. Good morning and welcome to the fiscal 2025 preliminary budget hearing for the Commission of Civil and Human Rights. My name is Natasha Williams and I am the chair of this committee. This morning, the committee is looking forward to better understanding the landscape of the commission and its consistent efforts in protecting New Yorkers from human rights violations. The Commission on Human Rights, or CHR, enforces human rights laws, engages, educates, and encourages positive community relations. The Commission's fiscal 2025 preliminary budget totals nearly $13.7 million, which includes $11.7 million for personnel services to support 136 positions. CHR's budget also includes roughly $2 million for other than personnel services, of which approximately $387,000 is projected to be spent on contractual services. Similar to the November plan, the preliminary plan includes a PEG that will reduce CHR's budget by $676,000 in fiscal 2024 and 24 vacant positions as of January 2024. The Commission on Human Rights is such a small agency, and these reductions will impact its work regarding enforcement, training, communications, and operations. Today, we will examine CHR's fiscal 2025 budget and how it allows the Commission to efficiently carry out its important duties. We are interested in hearing the current vacancies' impact on its mandated tasks and the actions that must be taken to fill those vacant positions soon. We will delve deep into resources and strategies that CHR utilizes for retaining existing staff when the city is cutting agencies' budgets. Lastly, and among other topics, we will review local law reports on workplace protections for domestic workers and how the law is enforced to prohibit discrimination based on someone's criminal background. I look forward to learning how the Council could better support the Commission on Human Rights in this fiscal year. I want to thank our committee staff for their work, Florentine, Nia, Jessica, and William, my legislative aide, Nader. And before we begin, I'd also recognize my colleagues who are not here, but hopefully they will be coming shortly. And I will now pass it to committee counsel to swear you in.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, good morning still, barely, everyone. Welcome. I'm Jessica Boulay, counsel to the Committee on Civil and Human Rights. Before we begin testimony, I want to remind any member of the public joining on Zoom that you will be on mute until you are called to testify. I will call public witnesses to testify after the conclusion of the administration's testimony and council member questions. So we will now call representatives of the administration to testify. We will hear testimony from the Commission on Civil and Human Rights first, and subsequently from the Equal Employment Practices Commission. I will administer the affirmation to our panelists. From the Commission on Civil and Human Rights, Commissioner and Chair Annabelle Palma, Deputy Commissioner of the Community Relations Bureau, Kajori Chaudhuri, Deputy Commissioner of the Law Enforcement Bureau, Sapna Raj, and Deputy Commissioner for Administrative Services, Mariela Salazar. Panelists, please raise your right hands. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before this committee and to respond honestly to council member questions?
I do.
All right, thank you. I'll now invite Commissioner Palma to begin testimony.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Williams and members of the Committee on Finance and Civil and Human Rights. Thank you for convening today's hearing. I'm Annabelle Palma, the Commissioner and Chair of the New York City Commission on Human Rights. Today I'm joined by Sapna Raj, Deputy Commissioner of Law Enforcement Bureau, Kajori Chaudhuri, Deputy Commissioner of Community Relations Bureau, and Mariela Salazar, Commissioner for Administrative Services. I'm excited to speak about the work our agency has accomplished over the past year. For over 80 years, the Commission has cultivated a city where all New Yorkers can live, work, and thrive free from discrimination. Today, the New York City Human Rights Law is one of the broadest anti-discrimination laws in the country. The law prohibits discrimination in housing, employment, and public accommodations, and it includes more than 25 protected categories. The Commission has a dual mandate. First, the Commission's Law Enforcement Bureau enforces the city's human rights law. Second, the Community Relations Bureau seeks to prevent discrimination through education. There is more detail on the work of each unit in my written testimony. The human rights law was amended twice in the past year. Most recently, fair chance housing protections were added. This amendment will go into effect in January of next year. In November of 2023, height and weight were added as protected categories. The human rights law aims to advance equity in employment, in housing, and public accommodations. Over the past year, the Commission's Law Enforcement Bureau strengthened its efforts to address voucher discrimination and launch investigations to ensure employers are including good faith wage ranges in job postings. They continue to enter into transformative settlements that reduce barriers to employment, change hostile work environments, help voucher holders secure housing, and foster equitable treatment in public spaces. Consistent with past data, the highest number of inquiries and claims continue to be in the areas of disability and gender. The Commission continues to use the tools at our disposal to ensure that covered employers, housing providers, and providers of public accommodations understand the human rights law and their obligations. We reach more New Yorkers than ever before by leveraging our strong, innovative outreach, partnerships, and communication channels. Since FY24 budget hearing, the Commission has expanded trainings to reach law enforcement, school safety officers, real estate agents, and healthcare providers, the major stakeholders that ensure rights are respected and New Yorkers are treated with dignity. Trainings are one example of the wide-ranging outreach carried out by our community liaisons and lead advisors, who work specifically with historically underserved and underrepresented populations. This year, the Commission also developed several new signatures events to bring New Yorkers together. We hosted an inaugural Human Rights Summit in December. This event featured trainings and discussions about the law and spotlighted the Commission's partnership with the Office for the Prevention of Hate Crimes that awards grants to organizations combating bias in New York City. More recently, to round out Black History Month, we hosted a spoken word event that celebrated the rich tradition of oral history and storytelling ingrained in Black history. I will now focus on our law enforcement unit. In FY23, the Commission resolved over 400 cases and secured over $5 million in damages and penalties. The staff in the Law Enforcement Bureau, known as LEB, evaluate and investigate allegations of discrimination brought to the Commission by members of the public. In FY23, the largest number of inquiries and claims were in employment. Housing has the second highest number of inquiries and claims. Across all jurisdictions, disability-related inquiries and claims were the most common, followed by gender and then race and color. When appropriate, LEB can use pre-complaint interventions to obtain expedited relief from harm. In FY23, the Law Enforcement Bureau resolved hundreds of matters without filing a complaint. The most pre-complaint interventions involve source of income discrimination, where a voucher holder was denied an apartment, repairs, or renewal of a lease. That comprised more than 140 of the interventions. Disability accommodations and housing were the second highest number of interventions. When the Commission identifies the potential of widespread violations or discriminatory practices, the Commission can initiate an investigation. The Commission also proactively uses testing to investigate whether entities have engaged in discrimination. In FY23, the Commission tested more than 1,000 entities. As a right-to-file agency, reports of discrimination from the public are top priority. The Law Enforcement Bureau filed more than 300 public-initiated complaints of discrimination in FY23. In FY23, the Commission secured over $4 million in damages for complaints and over $800,000 in civil penalties. I will highlight two examples of case resolutions. The first, in settlements involving claims of discrimination based on the existence of a disability, respondents were required to construct ramps in both housing and businesses. The second, in one case involving a large company with stores throughout New York City, an LEB investigation uncovered persistent sexual harassment and retaliation, which the company failed to address. The settlement included $330,000 in damages and penalties, policy changes, and ongoing monitoring by the Commission to prevent future gender-based harassment. I also want to highlight the work of the Commission's Community Relations Bureau, better known as CRB. This unit cultivates understanding and respect among the city's diverse communities, builds partnerships, and informs New Yorkers about the rights and responsibilities that stem from the human rights law. In FY23, we reached a record number of New Yorkers. We engaged with 130,000 people through more than 2,000 conferences, workshops, and trainings. In FY23, the most requested training was the Human Rights Law 101, which was offered more than 100 times. Outreach conducted in collaboration with DCWP and SBS focused on Know Your Rights materials and informed New Yorkers on how to report bias and discrimination. The agency was pleased to collaborate with a number of City Council members in these efforts. Additionally, our Community Relations Bureau partners with NYPD Office of Equity and Inclusion, as well as DOE's Office of Safety and Youth Development to train new staff. The Commission presented workshops about the fundamentals of the human rights law, as well as anti-Black racism and other forms of discrimination based on race and color. Consistent with our mandate to foster intergroup understanding, the agency continued to emphasize the importance of dignity and respect for all people in New York City. One example was a January citywide Day of Visibility Against Hate, a commission activity that will take place annually. We have been active in Jewish, Muslim, Sikh, and Arab community spaces, talking about New Yorkers' protections against bias and hate with federal agencies as well as local partners. Effective outreach and prevention must include New York City's youth, work that the agency continues to expand on. This year, as part of the 75th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the Commission partnered with the United Nations to bring over 500 youth together to discuss the human rights law in New York City. In FY23, the agency's policy and regulatory priorities continue to reflect our commitment to serving diverse communities. For example, we recently worked with DCWP and Moya to finalize a Workers' Bill of Rights that has launched citywide and worked with DOHMH on the Reproductive Justice Bill of Rights for New Yorkers. I will turn to the agency's communications and marketing unit. The Commission continues to leverage social media, digital platforms, and community press to expand our reach. In FY23, campaigns included Vouchers Pay Discrimination Doesn't, raising awareness of source of income discrimination. Our multilingual campaigns span social media, radio, print outlets, and convenience stores. As a result of our campaigns and focus on expanding social media, our reach has grown to several million people in FY23. Additionally, the Commission's website had over 2 million visits, and our agency was mentioned over 1,000 times in the press. All of this work and more is made possible by the passionate and committed staff that show up every day to prevent and address discrimination in New York City. I will now focus on staffing. As today, the Commission has a headcount of 136. We have 113 active staff members. We are a small but diverse staff that speak over 20 languages across our agency. Finally, I will highlight our budget. The FY24 agency budget provided for approximately $12.9 million. For FY25, the preliminary budget provides for $13.6 million. In closing, I appreciate the opportunity to speak about the New York City Commission on Human Rights. We look forward to continuing to champion the human rights of all New Yorkers with the leadership of the Adams administration and the support of the New York City Council. Thank you so much, Madam Chair, and I welcome your questions.
Thank you. So just jumping right in, the preliminary plan includes a PEG vacancy reduction of 8 positions for savings of $691,000 starting in fiscal 2027. The Commission has yet to determine the type of positions that will be reduced. Have you determined what these positions will be? If not, when do you think you will have this information?
Thank you for the question. So we remain optimistic about the city's budget, and we hope that at that time, we'll have to reevaluate, of course, our current staffing levels at that point, our resources, priorities, and then work closely with OMB to determine how do we minimize impact. But as it gets closer to the time, we'll be able to make that assessment.
Okay, so you have vacancies, but you're not sure what positions and or if those positions will truly be eliminated by adoption. Is that
Correct.
what you're saying? Okay. Why this? Can you explain why this reduction was instituted starting in fiscal 2027 and not earlier?
Again, we want to remain optimistic about the budget, and we wanted to make sure that if we needed to touch our head count, that it was later on and not currently.
Okay. Is it fair to say that there is a concern that removing the positions will impact services? If so, how?
As the commissioner mentioned in her statement, I think that we have expanded our reach, and we have continued to fulfill our mandate, regardless of our budget and our headcount, and we will continue to fulfill our mandate.
The preliminary plan includes a city funding reduction of $676,000 in fiscal 2024 for less than anticipated personnel services spending. Your commission stated that they met this peg by reviewing the budgets of the enforcement, training team, communications, operations, and intergovernmental units. It was then determined that the savings will be met through unused funding from vacancy accruals throughout the agency. Can you provide a breakdown of the 24 positions that are currently vacant as of January 2024?
Don't have the exact breakdown, but we are at 23 vacant positions currently, and they really vary across all units. So we have vacancies, I would like to say, in each of our units. So LEB, CRB, our HR department, our IT department, we all have at least 1 or 2 vacancies in each unit. But I'm happy to provide you with that information after.
Thank you. Well, you can't really explain this, but I'll ask you anyway, so you can provide this information to us later. Why are these positions vacant, and how long were those positions vacant is the question.
Some of the positions have been vacant for months, some have been a little bit longer, over a year. We are coming out of a hiring freeze, so we are looking forward to be able to fill all of our vacancies, and we'll be working very closely with OMB to be able to do so.
And how did you calculate the $676,000 peg? Like, when OMB asked you to conduct the exercise within your agency, what did you do?
That number equals about 5% of our agency's budget, and so that was a mandate that came from the mayor, making sure that any cuts that we do minimize impact and don't affect, critical and essential functions. And so that's what we did. We used that number and then made our assessment.
Right, that does make sense. I guess I'm looking for a more micro answer. So, understanding OMB's direction to reduce, but within your agency, you also have to be more intentional about where you're taking money from. So, just wanted a little bit more detailed explanation as how you calculated that, and where are you pulling money from? How did you decide where to cut and why to cut?
The majority of those funds came from a structural surplus in PS, if I'm not mistaken, for the amount that you mentioned. And again, there are several factors that showed us that we were going to have this money and that we weren't going to be able to spend it. And again, just looking at
Can you
each
share
unit.
some of those factors?
Sure. I mean, we've had an OTPS freeze, there were hiring freezes. And then again, based on the needs of our agency and what we were able to do, we factored that this was the amount that we had, and here's what we were able to do.
Okay, and you said structural PS, which is I guess structural personnel services. So what does that mean? What do you consider structural personnel services?
PS. So
Right.
we have vacancies, and we knew that by the end of the fiscal year, we weren't going to be able to either hire, or if we did hire and onboard someone, they weren't going to use all of their salary. So that's what calculates into a structural surplus.
Okay. Have you requested any additional headcounts or funding from OMB in fiscal 2025? If yes, is the request still pending, or was it denied?
No, we have not submitted any new needs.
And I know you mentioned that you're excited about the ending of the hiring freeze. So do you have a plan to fill the vacancies? And if so, can you share the plan?
Sure. We have posted, make sure that we've posted all of our positions, or as many as we are ready to hire for. We are attending different health fairs, because I used to work at a hospital. We're attending different job fairs. We are going out to different law schools, alumni association, just really wherever we have an opportunity to do outreach. That's what we're doing.
And we also created an internal hiring committee to help with the recruitment of future employees for CCHR.
The November plan, PEG, reduced your headcount by 3 positions, 1 in the Community Development Program area and 2 in the PS-OTPS program area. What type of position or positions were reduced in the Community Development Program area, and what type of positions were reduced in the PS-OTPS program area? And how have you been covering the work streams for those vacancies?
Trying to remember.
Well, you remember, I would highlight that in terms of the work stream, you know that the commission has a mandate to fulfill, and so we have to continue to do the work despite any reductions that we have faced.
Yep, and in general, those 3 positions were positions that we know that we had other staff that was able to cover, and so that's why they were reduced.
Thank you. I just wanted to acknowledge that we've been joined by Councilmember Rita Joseph. So I know that the lack of adequate headcount could be an issue and has been an issue, especially in the future for your agency to efficiently carry out its duties. You know, the council loves to give you more work. Do you believe that reducing the budget headcount has impacted your agency's core function of enforcing the human rights law and educating the public?
You know, council member, as you know, that CCHR has an expansive mandate, and we work to make sure that New Yorkers' rights are protected, and we have to continue to do we have to continue to do that work, and we have we do it with a mission-driven team that it's very thoughtful and very intentional when we go out into the community, and so while we have had challenges with the headcount and with the hiring freeze, and just doing our part during this budget process, we continue to enforce the human rights law under our mandate.
Can you share how many staff attorneys and supervising attorneys you have in the Law Enforcement Bureau right now, and how does that compare to pre-pandemic headcount?
I'm sorry. We have 55 staff in the Law Enforcement Bureau at this time. Attorneys. We have, I think, 25 attorneys altogether at this.
And compared to pre-pandemic levels?
We had 48 staff attorneys and 13 supervising attorneys at that time. In
So you have
2018.
25 now, and before COVID, you had, I can't count, 62?
Yes.
Okay. How are cases redistributed when a staff member leaves to avoid backlog?
So we, as you know, our mandate is to enforce the New York City human rights law, and no matter what the number of staff that we have, we continue to address the investigations that we have to do and take cases to litigation. We have more cases at oath in litigation now than we have ever had in the last 10 years that I know of. So we have been continuing to litigate the claims.
I'm sorry, you say you have more cases now than you ever had?
At oath and in litigation,
at oath.
yes,
Okay.
that have been referred to oath in litigation for trial. Of course, a lot of them get settled once
Significantly
it
less
gets
attorneys as well.
Yes, we have fewer attorneys, but we still have more cases that we've taken to oath, and we're very proud of that. And we try our best to assign the cases out as soon as possible so that they can be handled by the attorneys that we have and move the cases along in order to be resolved either as dismissals or settlements or referrals to oath.
Okay. On average, how long do pro se callers wait before they have an intake appointment with an attorney?
So that depends. Actually, we've brought down that amount quite a bit. I think right now we are at 3.5 months that people have to wait for an appointment with an attorney.
Okay. Is it fair to say if you had more staff, you would be able to shorten it even more?
We always welcome having more staff. That would always affect, how soon cases can be handled. But we are here to make sure not only that people get intakes with attorneys, we also have a pre-complaint intervention program. So whether it is in source of income or whether it is in employment where people are facing discrimination because they want a reasonable accommodation because of pregnancy or religion or because of medical condition, or whether it's in a public accommodation, we try to address that pre-complaint so that our attorneys and our pre-complaint interventionists are able to reach out, get people housing or get people access to housing, get people the accommodations that they need so that they don't have to file a complaint and wait for that entire process to take place. As you know, litigation takes a long time and investigations take a long time. So if it is possible for the person to get relief immediately, then we try to address that without the filing of a complaint.
Okay, I want to go back to case transfers. So you have departures, people leave. Do you have any statistics on how much time is added to a case every time it has to be transferred?
So it's difficult to say that because each case is different and the complexity of each case is different. And time may be added to the case not only because of the complexity of the case, but because of the parties that are involved, how long complainants take to get us information or respondents take to get us information. There are different things that happen in litigation or in investigation that takes time. So it's difficult to say that there's a specific amount of time that's added to a specific case. It just depends. It's on a case-by-case basis.
Okay. Well, do you have data on the percentage of complaints that have experienced one or more case transfers? So maybe you can't quantify how much time is added when a case gets transferred, but do you have a sense, or are you tracking how many times a particular case may get transferred to a different attorney or someone else within LEB?
We don't track how many times the case has been transferred because that doesn't necessarily mean that the case is not getting resolved quickly, because just because it's transferred twice, it may be different than a more complicated case that's been transferred just once. So we don't track that particular data.
Okay. How much overtime, if any, happens due to vacancies? And how has that been included in the past year?
We don't have overtime. We have what's called comp time, and that's added when people that's granted when people have complicated cases, when cases are going to trial, when there are specific investigations that need to be done, depositions. Then people are given comp time. And we also try to reduce the number of cases that each attorney has so that they are able to handle that caseload within the time period that our unionized staff can work.
More questions about delays and transfers. Do you all have a policy about when administrative convenience closures are appropriate and when administrative closures are appropriate after finding probable cause? 2 questions. And then how does this potential delay impact a decision about whether or not to close a case for administrative convenience?
So administrative closures go through a specific process with us. It's not taken lightly. There is an investigation that takes place, and then there is a detailed analysis that's done, not only by the attorney, but the supervisory staff are involved in that too. And then if a decision is made that a case is not jurisdictional for whatever reason, or there's no evidence of discrimination, then the case is administratively closed. We should also remember that when a case is administratively closed, it can be appealed to the office of the chair. And so if the person appeals it to the office of the chair, the office of the chair then looks at it to see whether that decision was appropriate or not. And if it wasn't, it's remanded back to the Law Enforcement Bureau for more investigation or whatever the office of the chair decides needs to be done.
Can you share with us how many cases you have in total right now?
I can give you that information later. I don't have that right with me right now.
Okay. Turning back to headcount, the attorneys that work for the agency perform such essential investigatory reporting and enforcing of our very expansive human rights law. Could there be an overlap between attorneys who work for city agencies compared to private practices?
What we found is that the cities or governments' pay rates for attorneys is more comparable to the nonprofit sector and not the private sector. The private sector just has a different compensation model. It's hard to compare.
What is the current attrition rate of attorneys at your agency, and what is the average length of employment for attorneys at your agency?
I don't have that information at the moment, but I can definitely follow up and provide that with you later.
Okay, and so also want to know how the attrition rate of attorneys has impacted the quality and effectiveness of the services provided, if at all.
I would say that I'm very proud of the work that the Law Enforcement Bureau and the attorneys in the Law Enforcement Bureau do. Whether we have had very few staff, post-COVID, or whether we had a lot of staff, our attorneys are dedicated to the work they do and the mission of the agency. And so I don't think that the quality of the work has suffered at all.
Thank you. How many testers do you have in LEB that conduct proactive testing?
Right now, we have only 3 testers because we have testers who have left, and we are looking to increase that number. But our testers do quite a bit of testing. I think last year we tested with 4 testers. We tested more than 1,200 entities, not just the number of tests, but entities that we tested in New York City.
Do you have any plans to conduct any commission-initiated investigations this year? And if not, what kind of additional capacity would you need to perform these?
I'm sorry, I missed the first part of the question.
Like any commission-initiated investigations, like there might be something that you're hearing that you're seeing, and maybe you want to launch a unique investigation to do a little bit more digging. Do you plan to do any of those?
We're constantly looking for issues that we want to investigate as the commission. We have filed quite a few commission-initiated complaints during this fiscal year and during this calendar year, and we will continue to do that. We're always looking for issues to file.
Can you share the ones you've done? Because you said this year. Can you share the investigations you've conducted?
So we have actually some of them on our website that have been posted on our website. So we've done quite a bit in the salary transparency area. A lot of the commission-initiated investigations are not complaints. They start out as requests for information because we're trying to find out what the policies and practices are before we determine whether we want to file a complaint or not. Other times we're sending cease and desist letters, asking entities to not violate the law and to work with us to come up with policies and practices that are in compliance with our law. So there are different ways in which we enforce the law through commission-initiated matters.
Okay, just a few questions on your contract budget, and then I'll turn it over to my colleague, Council Member Joseph, for questions. So your contract budget was $43,000 less in fiscal 2025 compared to the fiscal 2024 adopted budget contract of $430,000. This was due to the removal of 3 contracts for data processing equipment, training programs for city employees, and professional service. Why were these 3 contracts removed in fiscal 2025?
Our contractual needs vary each fiscal year, so it really just depends or depended on the service that was being provided, and perhaps not perhaps, but for the upcoming fiscal year, we have, or we're planning to do different things, so it may just reflect a different vendor that we're using and a different cost.
Cool. Can you share a little bit more details on the training program for employees that was reduced?
I'm not sure which specific program, but I know that we had, and we like to do this because we find that it's also an incentive for staff retention. But wherever appropriate, we're trying to promote professional development opportunities. So that could be that we are using DCAS trainings. Most recently, we had coaching opportunities for our staff. So that can be what's reflected in the contractual budget.
Yeah, it would be good to just get details. And macro level, what are the typical training programs that you all provide for employees and or provide it on a yearly basis? Does that also fluctuate? I know you mentioned some already. You mentioned the DCAS, and so do you have anything else, or it's just more so along the same lines?
It would still vary, but yes, it would be more in line with, again, more trainings that are offered from DCAS, and then again, depending on our staffing needs and perhaps what we're seeing that what kind of trainings our staff needs, then we're going to be looking into other opportunities with vendors.
Okay, and because that budget was cut, is there a plan to restore the training program in the future?
Well, the training program hasn't necessarily been cut, so I just think, again, that depending on, for the upcoming fiscal year, what the need is, that it could very well be that we found another vendor, and so the cost may have gone down. But
it would be good to get that because, like, you know,
No problem.
you're the expert. I don't know what's in your budget. So all we see is a number. And so if we see a number and next to the line item it says training and it's slash, like, it's hard for me to believe that you still have a program if you have no money for the program. And it could be what you said, but I don't know that.
Right, council member, and I would just add that our internal trainings, when our law is when the law is amended, those internal trainings are still happening. That's not affected by contracts. We still do our mandatory in-house trainings around sexual harassment and other topics of the law that we cover, and so those are not affected by this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think there's consensus or perceptions that there are retention problems across the city, especially for these super professional positions like attorneys. And so you just mentioned, like, you have professional development to support and retention. And again, we're just looking at numbers on a paper is why we have hearings, because we want to learn more, like, what's going on. So we obviously care about retention and training and just want more details, because what is reflected is that it was slashed. All right, Councilmember Joseph?
Thank you, Chair. I want to push ahead and look into the future, right? So what are some of the CHR goals in the current and projected fiscal years?
Thank you, Councilmember Joseph. So since joining the commission, it's been no secret that I really have stressed that New Yorkers need to know that CCHR is here, that we exist. So visibility has been key for me and the team. We were able, this fiscal year, we were able to launch our first time ever what we call InfoLine Live. So now New Yorkers can actually dial us starting at 9:30 in the morning and get a live person to take their call, take their complaint, right? They don't, before I came to the agency, folks had to call in, leave a message, and wait anywhere between 10 to 15 days to get a response. And so right now, we're actually making it, we've made the commission more accessible to New Yorkers, and I want to continue to do that by expanding the work that we do in our community service centers in each borough, as well to be able to do then intake in a way where we're going to New Yorkers rather than having them wait and come to us.
How has the data risen from that approach? And there's been communities that are hard to reach. What is the plan to make sure you're reaching those communities, whether it's through language access and all of that?
So we continue to proactively go out into communities. We continue to proactively engage in partnerships with the city council, with elected officials, with our partners out in the community, especially in communities that are hard to reach. We are intentional about trying to get out to those communities. I know through the work of our CRB team, we have done hundreds of thousands of, we've reached hundreds of thousands of people, have done thousands of workshops, and we that work continues, and that's the work that enable us to reach those communities. Kadri, you want to expand on?
Sure. Thank you for the question. I think for us, there are a few things. One is, we, as Commissioner mentioned, we have community service centers in all the 5 boroughs. So there's a geographical outreach, but there are also specialized positions called lead advisors and liaisons, which our agency over the years has very thoughtfully thought about, like, who are the communities who have historically mistrust in government, and how do we ensure that we have staff who represent, who speak the language, who look like folks, and who have built trusted relationships in those communities. So those are some ways that we ensure that we are reaching different communities. Language, we are proud to say, of the local law 10 languages, we speak within our agency 8 of them, and we ensure that we are working using other translation and other pieces for the other languages as well. So language access is very key in terms of our relationship and partnerships.
And I think I would just add, council member, that we also, have leveraged our social media. We have leveraged in ensuring, right, our communications team has created these human rights minutes that explain the law literally in 1 minute. And so those have been successful in reaching communities. We also have we've been talking about creating a radio show, also have been engaging ethnic media to do roundtable discussions to be able to bring our information through the press directly into communities, especially communities that English is not their first language.
That was going to be my next question. Thank you. How can the council support your goals?
The partnerships that you all provide are key and vital, and we take advantage of every opportunity that we can to show up where you are, right? To show up and make sure that we're talking to your constituents, right? To New Yorkers. I know that a few months ago I did walkthroughs in business corridors with Councilmember Riley, with Councilmember Kirshner. Those opportunities are always key to ensuring that New Yorkers are getting the full vast of services that the commission has to offer.
Well, thank you for that. I always put the dream out there. If CHR had more resources, what would its top priorities be, and what are the reasonable level of funding that you would propose to support those?
I wish I could put a number on a budget, but there's no magic number, right? We have a mandate to fulfill, and no matter what the budget looks like, we have to continue to fulfill that mandate. I will say that the team is dedicated and continues to do the work, and so we will continue to accept all the support that we get from the council and continue to work with the administration and with OMB to ensure that the needs of our agency are met.
Are you currently facing any challenges?
I think our biggest challenge is recruiting attorneys to come and work at the agency, but we're actively, again, speaking with OMB and trying to be creative and innovative in how can we attract attorneys to come and work at CHR.
How are you thinking about adapting to expansion in its mandated, including discrimination, housing discrimination, and economic abuse going forward?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
How are you thinking about adapting to expansion in its mandates, including discrimination, housing discrimination, and economic abuse going forward? Like, for example, my district has a huge discrimination about landlords taking vouchers. So that's a huge thing, and I have two other neighboring districts that are facing the same thing.
We always encourage anyone who knows of these situations that are happening, right, to bring it to our attention. We can respond quickly and effectively. We will continue to do trainings. We will continue to bring the information, right, around the amendments that were made to our law. We'll continue to ensure that we are in those spaces, and so wherever you need the commission to come and provide that information to the community, please let us know, and we'll continue to do our part through our community outreach unit.
And economic abuse, how is that looking to expand and mandate and making sure people know about it?
The same way, through trainings, through discussions, through community meetings, wherever we get an opportunity to highlight the amendments that have been made, and to those areas of the law, we're in those spaces doing that.
Is any of those areas we'll foresee in the future in 5 years will need more resources to make sure it's getting the work done?
The commission has a mandate, and so in 5 years, our mandate will be the same. We have to enforce the law.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Chair.
No problem. Just acknowledging that we have been joined by Councilmember Riley.
Thank you so much, Chair. How you doing, Commissioner? How you doing, team? I just had a great meeting with your team last week. Looking forward to doing amazing things. And thank you so much for supporting the corridor walk with the small businesses in my district. Truly appreciate it. I have a few questions I just want to run through real quick. First is personnel restructuring. Given the restructuring of your personnel services and community development staff, what is your plan to ensure that your staffing levels meet the needs of those who turn to you for support?
As I mentioned before, Councilmember Riley, regardless of what our staffing levels look like, we have a mandate to fulfill, and so the staff shows up every single day, dedicated and ready to do the work, and that will continue.
Thank you. Going to recidivism and continued compliance, do you have any data you could share with us on the recidivism rate of the offending parties? And what mechanisms do you have in place to ensure continued compliance after a resolution has been reached?
Are you referring to matters resolved? Or
Yes.
When we resolve cases?
Correct, yeah.
So as part of our settlement agreements, what we usually, not usually, but a lot of times what we will have is a monitoring provision in there so that the respondent has to provide certain information to us about compliance at regular intervals. So it depends on the settlement agreement. Sometimes it's once every 4 months, sometimes it's once every 6 months that they have to provide us information. Or we will say in the settlement agreement itself, we'll provide that we can ask for that information at any point within a certain period of time for them to provide it to us so that we can see that they are in compliance. And I still get, as part of our settlement agreements, emails kind of showing us how they have been, with proof that they have been in compliance.
Thank you, Deputy Commissioner. And how do you explain the steady decrease of dollar amount damages received every year by complaints from FY21 to today?
They actually have increased.
It has increased.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
The damages have increased.
Well, I have to tell my team that they have decrease on here. Excuse me. Which mechanisms can you introduce to ensure that plaintiffs who want to pursue litigation or reach a settlement reach a successful outcome?
So we work, we are an as of right to file agency. So if someone comes to us with a claim that's jurisdictional within our law, we have to take that complaint. We have to take that claim, file a complaint, investigate it, and if we find through that investigation that there has been a violation of our law, we will either settle the claim so that both parties both parties are in compliance, so that the complainant who has come to us gets damages. The respondent who comes to us has to either pay penalties and the damages or to the city, penalties to the city and damages to the complainant, and then also engage in what we call affirmative relief. So they have to go through training, they have to change their policies and practices to be in compliance with our law. They usually have to post our notices of rights in either their housing, if they're housing providers, in their wherever their offices are. If they're employers, then in their employment places. And then we also, as I said, we also ask for monitoring of some kind. And then according to each, we also have different ways in which we get affirmative relief. Like in source of income cases, we have been asking for set-asides so that certain number of apartments are set aside for people with vouchers. In Fair Chance Act cases, we've asked for the employers to engage in job fairs that have to that are targeted towards people who are re-entering, or to work with re-entry organizations. So there are different ways in which we make sure that it's not just the individual who's come to us who gets relief, but that relief is something that affects people going forward, the public going forward.
And something you touch on, I think, is mediation. That was like my line of questioning next. So I understand the well-known power imbalance between organizations and individuals in alternative dispute resolution processes. How do you ensure that mediation remains a fair and equitable process for individual plaintiffs? And can you just please elaborate a little bit more on your mediation process?
Yes, so we have one mediator who handles our mediation. The Law Enforcement Bureau refers cases to mediation if both parties are interested in mediation and if both parties are represented. If the complainant is not represented, then we will try to find an advocacy organization or legal services that will agree to represent that complainant during the mediation.
Okay. And have you seen any barriers when individuals are trying to file complaints? And if you have seen any barriers, what are your kind of resolutions to respond to those barriers?
I'm not sure I understand the question. If you could just
So if you're seeing any barriers, because usually people don't want to file complaints or don't feel comfortable filing complaints, they might come to you for resources and then be kind of restricted with giving you some information. So what do you kind of do to kind of, help them out?
So we actually get quite a bit of that where people are not willing to file a complaint because for different reasons. Either they don't want to, they're afraid of retaliation, or they just don't want to invest the time, or they just don't want to file a complaint. We call them tips. So the commission then looks at that and determines whether commission-initiated actions should take place. Because if we determine that there's possibly a pattern and practice issue, then we will either send a letter, a cease and desist letter, or what I call a soft touch letter to the respondent, or we will file a complaint, or we will send them a request for information to find out more. So the commission will take it over at that point.
Thank you. One thing I'm really, really happy about is your increase in outreach with youth. Just want to know the rationale of why you increase your outreach with youth, and can you please elaborate on the key distinction between these two types of trainings that you now incorporate now?
Sure. Thank you for the question, and I'm really glad to hear that you're excited about our youth programming. So we have So at the Commission, we have a program called Peer Mediation that is in its 21st year now. So youth engagement at the Commission is like not a new thing. We've been doing it for many years, but it is in a new place where we are doing much more focused and much more like thoughtful engagement. And so a few years ago, we launched what is called our YES initiative, that stands for Youth for Equity and Solidarity Initiative. So the YES initiative has a few things in it. One, we have a YES Council, where young New Yorkers who are high school and above are part of the council. So they do a full academic year program with us, where they talk about like what are the issues of discrimination and bias are they seeing in their schools, their communities, and we work with them to provide like engagement skills and leadership skills. And that's when the Commissioner was talking in her testimony about the UN event that we did end of last year at the 75th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Our Youth Council was a very integral part of it. Like they spoke, they presented, their voices were upheld. So our youth trainings differ slightly from our adult trainings because they're for young people, and they are based on like the needs and what the schools or community-based organizations may request for us. So for our youth trainings, we have a general human rights law training for them, but we also do trainings around race and color. We do a training around gender and sexuality, and we do a training on focusing on young on women's empowerment. So along with the peer mediation program that I talked about is in its 21st year.
Thank you. Chair, I'm almost done. In the first 4 months of fiscal year 2024, the number of complaints closed fell by 12%. Sorry, that's me. In the first 4 months of fiscal year 2024, the number of complaints closed fell by 12%, from 188 in the same period of fiscal 2023 to 166 in fiscal year 2024. This isn't due to part to increase demand for other aspects of CHR's work, including the greater number of complaints filed, which were necessary to more intake and filings for staff focused on complaints. So the questions I have are, what sort of complaints has CHR typically received? What is the average time that CHR resolves pending complaints?
So the most number of complaints, the jurisdictional complaints that we file, are in employment. Second is housing, and then, of course, public accommodations. Okay. Across all of those jurisdictions, disability is the largest number of issues is the largest issue that we address. I think it's very difficult to say why there has been a fluctuation within a quarter, because each complaint is different, and what people come to us, the public comes to us with complaints, is also different in it, not only in the subject matter, but also the complexity of what we need to investigate and how we need to investigate it and how long that investigation might take. So I think you may be able to look at it more towards a whole year rather than just a quarter. It can fluctuate within a quarter. And then even within a year, it's hard to tell because we may get very complex cases in a year. We may not get such complex cases the next year. People can come to us to file complaints. People can go to the State Division. People can go to EOC, can go to HUD and file, can go to court and file. So it just depends on who chooses to come to us.
Okay. And lastly, do you believe there are enough staff members to manage the issues? I know, Commissioner, you said regardless, you're going to make sure the work is done, but I just want to drill down to see if you believe that enough staff members were there to manage the issue. And also, did these complaints affect the number of overtime hours for these staff members?
You know, we would never deny that we can do more with more. Our mandate's our mandate. We have to continue to enforce the human rights law. You want to talk about the overtime?
I think I addressed that. Yeah. So if comp time is needed, then we do allow our attorneys to use the comp time to address address cases and the issues that are raised in those cases. Like I said before, if there are depositions, if there are interviews that need to be done that cannot be done during the work hours, if there are other types of preparation that needs to be done, we do allow for comp time.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair, for allowing me. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, team, for presenting today.
No problem. I just want to follow up on your comments that recruitment is one of the biggest challenges. Do you have a sense why? Is it salaries? Recruitments, yeah. Do you have a sense as to why? Like, can you give a little bit more?
I think with what we've seen, I mean, not only in our agency, but across the city, there's some determining factors that play into it. Salary can be one of those challenges, right? Competing against the private sector. City agencies competing against the private sector in terms of recruiting folks can be tough, and obviously, when offers are made, some of the attorneys have come back to us and said, I was offered something with more money, and so those are the challenges that we see, and again, we continue, right, to try to be creative and innovative and work with OMB to see what we can do to be able to attract attorneys to our agency.
Okay, how does the salaries at your agency compare to like other agencies that may have like attorneys or other similar positions? Is it on par or is it below?
The majority of our attorneys are unionized, so it has the salary ranges are part of the collective bargaining agreement, and we follow that.
Thank you. Just some more questions on your responsibilities and the services you offer. Does the LEB work in collaboration with other agencies? So like if there is anything that might be happening around enforcing the city human rights law. So I'm thinking of like source of income, which was in HRA, and there's still some things there. Like, how do you all work with other agencies to address different issues?
So the LEB department, right, enforces the law. The unit that will work with and collaborate with other agencies is our CRB team, and so we with you mentioned HRA, for example, we are now talking with DSS to be able to go in and do some trainings and when to the housing, the housing team in the shelters, right, around source of income. And so that's the collaboration that our agency will do. LEB won't do it. CRB is the unit that will do that.
Okay, there was an increase of $95,000 in fiscal 2025 in the preliminary plan compared to the fiscal 2024 adopted budget. What has driven the increase in fiscal 2025?
In what category?
You know what category? 1 second.
No problem.
We will look that up. How does the commission maximize its current resources and ensure that its efforts are cost effective, specifically in the Law Enforcement Bureau? So how are you maximizing your current resources to meet demands and also reductions in your budget?
I'm not sure what the answer to that.
Okay.
I mean,
we can skip it.
Budget.
How freely does the Law Enforcement Bureau investigate complaints of police misconduct? How does the LEB currently measure impact and effectiveness in its investigation?
So there are several parts of our law that deal with police misconduct. One is bias-based profiling, which is a specific area of our law that deals with misconduct by law enforcement. But also, individuals can bring claims to us because they feel that they have been discriminated because of whatever protected class of the 25 plus protected classes that we have, and of course in public accommodations is where it would mostly come in. So we do have claims against NYPD individuals who bring claims to us based on violations of where they feel they have been discriminated against.
And Councilmember, if I may add, we're also very actively working with NYPD's Office of Equity and Inclusion to ensure that their equity liaisons and others are being trained on the city human rights law. Similarly, the DOE's Office of Youth and Safety, who hire the school safety agents. We're training every new cohort of school safety agents around the human rights law so that people are aware of what their obligations are when they are out in the field as part of their job.
Okay. The $95,000 was in the Community Development Law Enforcement Program. Yeah, apparently it was an increase, right? So it was an increase that was, it was an increase in fiscal 2025 in the prelim, which was compared to the fiscal 2024 adopted budget. So there was an increase in this fiscal 2025 prelim plan.
I'll have to follow up with you with that.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to talk about metrics and tracking, and then just a few more questions on source of income unit and a few other things. So what is I know you need to get back to me on the total universe of inquiries, but how do you track it?
So we have a system that tracks the number of inquiries we get, each call that comes in, whether it is jurisdictional or not. And we also track the cases that are taken as intakes, the cases that are taken as complaints, where complaints are filed. So we have a system called Dynamics that tracks all of that.
So we have learned that some inquiries get assigned a matter number, others get assigned a correspondence number, and others don't get assigned any numbers at all. And I guess technically not tracked in the database. There's no record. So how does your agency decide which inquiries to assign a number to or not? And Councilmember Brewer would love this as the writer of open data law. So the 311 service request data set on NYC open data does not contain any data on your agency, and we also want to know why.
I don't know what 311, I don't know, but I know that at least in the Law Enforcement Bureau, any inquiry that comes in is tracked and is given a matter number, whether it is jurisdictional or not, or should be.
What is the difference between a matter number and a correspondence number?
I'm not sure. It's all matter numbers.
You all get
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
In 2023, of the 340 LEB complaints filed of 2,190 inquiries, 33% reached a settlement. Do you know how many of these complaints were related to source of income?
I would have to get back to you about how many of them were source of income.
Yeah, and what the results were of the settlements, and also how many set-aside units for voucher holders were won through these settlements, and also if there were any civil penalties and damages.
They usually are civil penalties and damages. Those are sometimes reduced somewhat if we are able to get set-asides, because that's really important to New Yorkers, that they have housing that is available to them. Much more important than, so we will reduce the civil penalties that are paid to the city, sometimes in correlation with the number of set-asides we get. Not always, but sometimes.
Thank you. And because we're on source of income, I'll just ask a few questions on that. So the source of income unit works to address discrimination against New Yorkers seeking housing using varying forms of assistance from federal, state, or city voucher, subsidy, or other forms of public assistance. The administration has indicated their commitment in the past to addressing the housing crisis, including City of Yes and millions of dollars to fund, I quote, tenant protection programs, including more staff to increase investigation enforcement against bad landlords who discriminate based on source of income. It was actually an excerpt from the mayor in a press release that your agency released April 19th, 2023. He says that, he's investing over $22 million to do this. And so what are the fiscal 2024 and 2025 budgets for the SOI unit, and has there been an increase in funds committed to the SOI unit?
The SOI unit resides within LEB, so it doesn't have its separate budget. We are currently at 13 SOI staff members, 6 which are attorneys, 6 are interventionists, and 1 is an admin staff.
Has the PEGs directly impacted the work of this unit?
No, it has not. It's actually grown. This is the largest the SOI unit has ever been.
How many positions are needed for the SOI unit to execute its mission?
Although it's we've now have dedicated staff to SOI. LEB as a whole works on SOI cases, so it's not the work of SOI is not limited to the SOI unit.
Okay.
I'll just add that within the SOI unit, we have interventionists who specifically handle cases where either brokers or landlords have discriminated against New Yorkers because they have a voucher, and we are able to contact the brokers or the landlords immediately to see whether the issue can be resolved and the person can get access to housing.
I'm happy you mentioned the interventionists. Can you tell me how many interventionists you have?
We have 6.
Okay. So just some questions on pre-complaint interventions. Has the source of income unit conducted an annual basis since 2018? So do you sort of conduct these interventions? So I think what I'm gathering from this question is that there was some annual thing that happened, but has it happened since 2018?
Have we been doing interventions since 2018? We have.
Yeah, how many have you been doing on an annual basis since 2018?
So I know that in fiscal 23, we had 145 PCIs that was successfully completed. I'm not sure what the number is for fiscal year 24. And of course, since 2018, we've done quite a few. There was a little bit of a lull during the pandemic because there was a moratorium on evictions, and housing was just sort of at a standstill at that point.
What percentage of the pre-complaint interventions have resulted in a move-in?
So I'm not sure that we track whether it results in a move-in, because that's not necessarily what someone who contacts us wants all the time. Sometimes they just want access to view the unit. So they may be asked, there are different ways in people want to access housing. Sometimes they have contacted a broker. The broker has told them, we can't show you the unit because it is, because you have a voucher and we don't think the landlord is going to accept a voucher, or we don't work with people with vouchers. And once the person sees the unit, they may not necessarily want that unit. To us, that's successful because the person wanted to see the unit and would not have even been able to see that unit if we had not intervened. Of course, there are others that we work with very diligently to have them move into the unit itself. Or if not that unit, then another unit. So sometimes we work with the person over a period of time to get them into housing.
I know you mentioned set-asides, and I'm pretty sure you don't have this answer, but if you could share with us at a later time how many set-aside units your agency has been able to secure for voucher holders since 2018. And then just a data tracking question. Can you share why you do not track address level data for source of income discrimination inquiries? So, for instance, there's no formal tracking of where these discriminations are taking place across New York City. So, technically, you wouldn't be able to really assess and say, like, well, we see in these communities or in these areas a higher propensity for discrimination because your agency is not tracking location.
So we do take the location of, we do take the location of the person who's calling us, not necessarily of the unit, but we have worked with other city agencies to track in which neighborhoods there has been the least number of voucher holders when the rents are within the payment standards.
Did you just say you worked with other agencies?
Yes.
Okay. I asked a question about your work with other agencies, and then you said you didn't work with other agencies.
I think for this specific, when it comes to SOI, right, and vouchers, that for that specific type of work and to be able to, right, identify where these discriminations are happening, that's the extent of the collaboration that happens.
Yeah, Commissioner, my question was like broad. It wasn't specific. I was just interested in how LEB works with agencies. It could be a simple conversation to something more comprehensive. We were interested in understanding how this unit specifically works with other agencies, and you all said that you didn't, and that only the community division
right
is. And you can understand my confusion.
No,
because you completely dodged that question, and then you like actively said yourself that you worked with the agency. So I was like very confused.
I'm sorry, Councilmember. I don't think. I mean, I know that I jumped in to respond to the question, but it was right. Is the specific work that LEB does in terms of the law enforcement that they. To do their work, there's not much room for collaboration with other agencies unless, right, we need information of this magnitude to be able to know where these landlords are committing this type of discrimination.
Yeah, and I feel like hearings and public forums is the opportunity to also understand the way a person is and how they think. And so I think it's, I don't always find it important for me to say this disclaimer, but I say all the time, I am not going to pretend to know half of the things that you guys do. I'm happy that I'm an elected official so I can talk trash about elected officials, which we are generalists. We are not specialists. And so these questions are an effort to learn more. And so, wanting to understand what that collaboration looks like, because we might hear things, but I don't know. I'm not in your agency. I don't know how many times you're picking up the phone or working with another agency. So that was the crux of this, is for me to genuinely know. I do not know. And so just wanting to get more information. That's all.
Absolutely. And LEB also actively, right, participates in panels with other, we get invited to speak at panels and community forums as well. So that collaboration also happens through LEB.
Okay. Are there any levels of cases being prioritized when the source of income unit is understaffed? And is there a current backlog?
So we are not understaffed at this point because we are the most robust we have been ever. And also, as the commissioner had said, it's not just the unit that does the source of income work, but all of the Law Enforcement Bureau does that work. So at this point, we don't have a backlog necessarily of source of income cases.
Okay, and I know in the past, folks who were in the source of income unit or other units or divisions within your very large bureau here spoke different languages. And so can you share how many languages are spoken at the commission, if you still have multilingual people that are, not only going into the community, but also working on these cases?
And at the commission, we currently, our staff speaks 27 languages.
That's amazing. Okay, I know that in prior years, HRA has stepped in to perform some of the source of income work. Can you explain the relationship between HRA's work and the source of income unit, and if they're currently playing the same role?
So I think currently the inquiries that are coming as far as source of income discrimination is concerned are going to be transferred to the Law Enforcement Bureau, and we've been in conversations with them so that the complaints are not going through HRA and DSS. They're going to come straight to the Commission on Human Rights.
Okay. Is it true that there is a source of income testing contract at HPD?
We don't have a testing contract with HPD right currently.
Or no, is there a testing contract sitting within HPD or HRA?
I am not sure. I know at one point we had a fair housing contract with HPD. We have not had that in several years.
Okay. Just want to acknowledge that we've been joined by Councilmember Salamanca. Do you have questions? Okay. The Fair Chance Act will go into effect on January 1st, 2025. The Fair Chance Act fiscal impact statement states that your agency will need an additional $1.4 million annually in order to implement and enforce the Fair Chance Act. However, in the FY 2025 budget, the fiscal impact statement only allocates $700,000. Does the commission need to staff up before the effective date takes place? If so, is the fiscal statement understating what needs to be done?
Again, I will reiterate as with any amendment that's made to our law, we have to, we're mandated to enforce it, and so we will continue to enforce the law as they come, as they're amended and as they are then coming into place.
I just want to say that we're in the beginning stages of the budget season, so I think there's also opportunities for us to continue the dialogue.
Okay, well, thank you so much for all you do. I always advocate for the commission, and I know we give you a lot of work in the council, so I appreciate everything, and I thank you so much for your testimony. All right, EEPC. Do we have to do this again? All right, well, I will just start my next opening statement while these lovely folks take their seats. Good afternoon and welcome to the fiscal 2025 preliminary budget hearing for the Equal Employment Practices Commission, or EEPC. Again, my name is Natasha Williams, and I'm the chair of the Committee on Civil and Human Rights. Still, EEPC's fiscal 2025 preliminary budget totals $1.2 million, which includes $1.1 million for personnel services to support 12 positions and $87,000 for other than personnel services. EEPC is an independent commission that monitors and evaluates the employment programs, practices, policies, and procedures of all city agencies to ensure that they maintain an effective, affirmative employment program of equal employment opportunity for protective groups who are employed by or seek employment with the New York City government. Although EEPC is expected to be exempted from a future PEG, however, its fiscal 2025 budget has not included any additional funding to enhance the commission-mandated duties. How does the city expect EEPC to fulfill its charter mandates without the proper funding for additional staff? And why isn't the administration providing adequate resources for this commission to efficiently serve New Yorkers? At this hearing, I look forward to hearing from the Equal Employment Practices Commission on ways the council could better support its work for this fiscal year. I'd also like to recognize my colleagues who did join us today, Councilmember Joseph, Riley, and Salamanca. Before you begin, I will ask committee counsel to swear in the commissioner. And everyone else assembled here.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I believe we have Chair Aldrin Bonilla, Vice Chair Elaine Rice. Oh, okay. Executive Director Jean Victor, and Director of Research Russell Ferry, and If you could all, oh, sorry, yes? Commissioner Nicole Yearwood, thank you. If you could raise your right hands, please. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before this committee and to respond honestly to council member questions? Yes. Thank you all. All right, I invite you to begin.
Hello, okay. Good afternoon, Chair Williams and members of the Civil and Human Rights Committee. I am Aldrin Rafael Bonilla, Commissioner and Chair of the Equal Employment Practices Commission. Joining me today, we have Commissioner Nicole Yearwood, we have Executive Director Jean Victor, and we have Russell Fetty, Director of Research at the EEPC. Thank you for the opportunity to testify on behalf of the EEPC at this preliminary budget hearing. Established in 1989 through an amendment to the New York City Charter, the Equal Employment Practices Commission is currently celebrating its 35th anniversary. Throughout these 3.5 decades, the EEPC has navigated numerous budgetary and institutional challenges in pursuit of fulfilling its charter mandate. As the city's only non-mayoral independent oversight entity, _independent, we are tasked with reviewing, evaluating, and monitoring the equal employment practices and procedures of city agencies. The EEPC works tirelessly to ensure a diverse, equitable, inclusive workforce that represents all of New York City. The EEPC conducts equal employment opportunity program audits on about 145 mayoral and non-mayoral agencies, once every 4 years. We also produce several data-rich annual city-wide reports examining critical topics such as occupational segregation, pay disparities, underutilization, and underrepresentation in the municipal workforce. Additionally, we continue to convene informational sessions, interagency task forces, and practitioner conferences, both in person and remote, to further our mission through collaboration. It is essential to acknowledge that while the productive EEPC staff and commissioners serve with unwavering commitment and expertise in the execution of our mission, the compounded effects of the recent PEGs, personnel and other than personnel budget cuts over the years, have led to a real and disproportionately adverse impacts to such a small and tiny agency like the EEPC. Valuable, experienced staff members have resigned, leaving remaining staff to take on untenable additional responsibilities. As you can imagine, this may affect morale. We faced unprecedented difficulties filling vacancies due to disproportionately inequitable and across-the-board application of PEG cost savings. The subsequent vacancies that have resulted in reduced administrative, legal, technical, and institutional skill sets and capacities to carry out work that requires hindsight, oversight, and foresight. So we have experienced a reduction in those capabilities. Currently, the EPC operates with a staff of only 12 after a vacancy reduction of 2 from a headcount of 14. A surprising fact considering the magnitude of our mission and its importance to the current and prospective employees seeking fair, non-discriminatory workplaces where their talents and careers could flourish in public service. In fact, the city spends more resources to remove a one-time 2-inch snowfall, which may melt anyway, than it invests annually on independently auditing and monitoring employment practices across city agencies. Again, we spend more on a 2-inch snowfall event than we do annually on auditing and monitor equal practices across city agencies. We know city agency employment practices and procedures are the main drivers to recruit, hire, promote, and retain women, Asian, Black, and Latino prospective and current employees, and much variation exists in terms of performance and compliance in this regard. The mayor and the city council must consider funding the EPC commensurate with its mission and mandate to be consistent with its public pronouncements on achieving a diverse, equitable, and inclusive public sector workforce. Such an investment to increase the EPC's budget by less than $500,000 within a $110 billion plus city budget is both minimalist and feasible. This investment would be more prudent and cost-effective than the tens of millions of dollars paid annually to settle civil service employment discrimination lawsuits. Despite these challenges and constraints, the EPC staff and commissioners remain committed to operational innovation and efficiencies where feasible. We proactively offer legislative remedies and policy recommendations when appropriate, and convene relevant stakeholders for long-term problem-solving and strategic planning within our limited resources. This includes numerous commission meetings and robust conversations with relevant agencies. We have initiated efforts to address contemporary issues such as recommending equal employment opportunity and sexual harassment trainings to all community board members, modernizing and auditing protocols, creating a pilot program with a city agency willing to take a deeper dive on the removal of barriers for women and people of color, convening agency heads and EEO professionals to be more communicative about our audit process and compliance, improving our website content and functionality, making us more public-facing, as well as creating and adopting our bylaws for the first time in agency history. Yet there is much more to be done in this largest and most diverse municipal workforce in the United States to realize equal employment opportunities and compliance. What we have seen over the last several years is that relatively few entities are found to be in full compliance when their EEO programs are audited. In fact, in 2022, agencies had an average of 6.3 corrective actions for a total of 114 corrective actions for all of the agencies that were audited that year. Last year, there were a total of 119 corrective actions, excluding community boards for the year. A clear indication that we are simply not doing enough to keep the city entities in compliance. Local Law 13 requires that the EEPC review the city workforce for a period of 10 years. We are currently in the 4th year of the review, and as we delve more deeply into the analysis, we recognize that we do not have enough bandwidth within our current staff of 3 researchers to perform the types of nuanced and complex analysis into the drivers of underutilization that we believe are necessary to provide the city with the most effective legislative, regulatory, and budgetary recommendations. Those drivers will include a deeper review into the recruiting, hiring, promotional, and separation activities at the city agencies. Thus, the EPC is requesting the resources of 3 additional staff members to the research unit who would be tasked with analyzing demographic selection rates and recruitment source information at each stage in the application to the hiring process to identify obstacles both before, during employment, review exit interviews, and offer meaningful recommendations and solutions. These will require a combination of qualitative and quantitative skill sets. Lastly, we also believe that a full-time executive agency counsel is indispensable and mission critical for our agency as a person who would be familiar with and understand the work of the EEPC and would therefore be able to perform such tasks as drafting the legislative and regulatory recommendations that come from the reports. This person will be also well versed in the federal, state, and city EEO frameworks and best practice. In light of the above, we are respectfully requesting funding for a total of 5 additional staff, which include a labor economist, 2 city research scientists, an EEO program analyst, and executive agency counsel. We estimate that our total request amounts again to less than $500,000, $500,000, which with the most important and crucial of these positions being the labor economist, executive agency counsel, and the research scientist. This work is important. It must be executed as a matter of law. We believe that this work is a defense against discrimination and to prevent discrimination in our workplace. And we greatly appreciate the support of this committee, Chair Natasha Williams, and the Committee on the Civil and Human Rights of the City Council and the Mayor's Office and any representatives from OMB. We look forward to working with you for the city in fiscal year 25 and looking forward to the opportunity to align our professed belief in diversity, equity, and inclusion, and right-sizing this budget lack for our agencies to be now consistent with our values.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Neither the November nor the preliminary plan included any new needs for EEPC. The good news is that EEPC was exempted from the preliminary plan PEG. I understand that OMB has agreed to not cut EEPC's budget for at least fiscal 2025. So did OMB clarify that EEPC will not have any PEG going forward?
Yes. There was no PEG going forward, and as far as new needs are concerned, we were advised that as long as we could self-fund our new needs, then we could put them in. Notwithstanding, I put in the same new needs that we have here today, the 5 employees that we're asking for.
Was any similar agreement made in future years?
No.
Have you requested any increased funding, new need to be included in the executive budget? If yes, for what area? I think you already said that, the $500,000. Do you feel that your budget is sufficiently funded to meet all your charter requirements? If not, how much additional funding would the commission need for the personnel services and other than personnel services? So I know you have the $500,000, but if you could be aspirational, like, do you think the $500,000, like, that's it, that's what you need? Or do you think more could be given? And if so, how much, what would you need it for? And how would that impact your ability to fulfill your charter requirements?
Yes, appreciate the question. The 500,000 is really to get us to fulfill the charter mandate that deals with hindsight and oversight. Right? In a city of 8.3 million people, with a municipal workforce of around 300,000 people, the most diverse and largest city in the United States, to have EEPC funded at $1.2 million, less than what it takes to remove snow, is insulting. And it doesn't allow us to really focus on hindsight. Hindsight in terms of how to overcome the institutional and historic barriers to our workforce for women and people of color in the city of New York, so that the workforce is both representative and includes the talent of everyone who was either born and raised here or who comes here to try to make a future for themselves and their families. We want to be able to focus on foresight issues in terms of forecasting, in terms of the effects of the displacement of workers after COVID. We found in our last year's report that the majority of exits and separations from the city workforce during COVID were women and women of color. And as they try to come back into the city workforce, we find that if they've been out of city workforce for 2 years, and even if they have 2 years of service, they come back at the lowest salary range for that job description. So there's a lot of built-in structural and inherent and systemic inequalities that we currently don't have the ability to focus on in terms of hindsight. When it pains us to read that sexual offenders of certain agencies might get employment in another agency of the city. How does that happen? So these issues of foresight in terms of looking beyond the horizon of how systemic inequalities and these kind of disparities continue to persist is something that we need bandwidth and capacity around. And that would be not only beefing up our audits unit, so that maybe we do spot checks in between the 4 years. We, by mandate, audit agency every 4 years. A lot can happen in between 4 years after our spotlight is removed. And in terms of research, all of these questions about the interconnectivity, intersectionality around occupational segregation. We have one of the most segregated occupational workforces in the country, in New York City, while we don't necessarily see ourselves that way. Pay disparities are also correlated with the occupational segregation, and then we have issues of underutilization and underrepresentation. So there's very much need to fund this beyond the $500,000 that we request. But the $500,000 that we request is really to bring us back up to speed around our oversight, right? The auditing and monitoring that is heavily important in terms of putting the spotlight and giving the kind of attention that DEI issues need. And in terms of bringing up the capacity around legal and institutional issues around hindsight. That we have a labyrinth, Byzantine labyrinth of all these different municipal laws that affect workplace. How do these laws interact with one another? Do they cancel out one another? Are they been effective in comparison to one another? And that's the kind of capacities that, if we had the opportunity, we would want additional funding for. But this $500,000 is really the minimum, de minimis, to just get us to legitimately, credibly say that we are doing our best and attempt to auditing these over 145 city agencies once every 4 years.
So would you say, given the current budget, you are struggling to meet your charter mandate requirements?
Yes, at this point, I would say yes, because I think, we have two units. We have the research unit and the audit unit. On the audit side, we're able to do the audits once every 4 years as required by the city charter. But as the chair said, last year we had 119 corrective actions for the agencies that we audited that year. The year before that, we had 114 or so corrective actions. It's telling me that something's not working. These agencies have been audited in the past, and yet they're still having a substantial number of corrective actions that indicate that they're not doing something, or we're not doing something, or we're not doing enough to get these agencies to remain in compliance. So we would need a few more people. I mean, obviously, last year in 2023, we had a very difficult year because we lost almost all of our audit staff. We are slowly in the rebuilding phase, and we're hoping that with the new staff that we bring on, we're going to be able to continue to do the audits that as we're meant to do them. But in order to do more, we're going to need more. On the research side, you know, we're scratching the surface of underutilization of women and people of color in the workforce, and we want to do more than that because we have 6 years of reporting left to do. To give you and the mayor's office the recommendations that we think will actually move the needle on underutilization in the city's workforce. We want to give you meaningful recommendations that you can look back on and say, yes, so we had thorough analysis of the workplace, the workforces, the obstacles in hiring, the obstacles in selecting, the obstacles in promoting women and people of color in the workforce, and this is what we need to do to fix those things. And we know that the EEPC has done a great and thorough job at determining what those obstacles are. So we want to be able to give you a product that you can be proud of. So you're going to need the additional staff for that.
And just to add, I think that we've been talking as a commission about training. So it's not just about us auditing an agency and saying, you know, you have these corrective actions, but how can we train agency EEO staff to make sure that they're not in this situation moving forward? And so if we want to do trainings and that type of thing, we also need additional funding for that as well.
Thank you. And one thing you said, Commissioner, in your testimony was this idea that your role, your commission is structured to keep agencies compliant with the vast array of EEO laws. Have you taken an analysis, and I know this has been some offline conversation, but would love if you have some thoughts to get on the record. You know, when agencies are, for instance, I'm thinking of the Vulcan Society with the firefighters, significant lawsuits. Cities definitely gonna have to pay some money. And there's probably a ton more that don't hit the news or that aren't as salacious or egregious as the FDNY. And so is it fair to say that investing in EEPC upfront could potentially decrease the city's paying out of lawsuits that they have and that they get every year for a myriad of EEO violations?
I would say yes. Maybe not be a direct, linear correlation, but absolutely when you put a spotlight on these practices and procedures, and when you let folks know that the city cares enough about these DEI issues to audit you and to monitor compliance, then people will focus on what is being measured and people will focus on what's being audited. I think a big challenge is that, and I often say this in the meetings, that it's de minimis right now what we're doing, right? It's compliance, but we all know compliance is not commitment. Compliance is not commitment. Mm-hmm. So when folks get a full compliance certificate from us and think that's for us the beginning of a conversation, right? It's not something that we know that everything has already been up to par. For example, in terms of budget cuts, when we have to deal with city agencies, guess often where their cuts are reflected in the programs that deal with diversity, equity, and inclusion, or EEO. So we may have to audit an agency that doesn't even have an EEO personnel. How we do that? No one there is versed in state, federal, or city compliance around the different laws that have been passed. And it's almost beginning the conversation anew, or not having the conversation at all. So it's definitely been deafening in terms of and you mentioned the Vulcan Society. We learned something very important from that in terms of going deeper than compliance. So if we're looking at when someone does an EEO complaint and you have an e-complaint log about what the process is, the procedure, when the complaint was launched, but even on our part, when you know better, you want to do better. We want to dig deeper in knowing how long have the complaints gone without being resolved. Imagine being in a workplace where you've done a complaint on a coworker or a supervisor, and you have to work amongst or around these individuals. And for 2, 3, 6, 7 months, what's an appropriate length of time to allow these kind of discriminatory complaints to go on without being resolved? And I think it's going to create a disadvantageous work environment. So even for us, within the limited, we start seeing that's the foresight beyond the horizon of what's below this compliance stuff, that we really are failing our residents and our employees, prospective or current, around commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And for us, the data, some people don't want, it's inconvenient, right? Because the pronouncements are one thing, but then we ask people, can we see the numbers?
Thank you. The preliminary plan includes $1.2 million in EEPC's fiscal 2025 budget to support 12 positions. As of January 2024, the Commission has 2 vacant positions. Can you describe the roles and responsibilities of EEPC's 12 positions?
Yeah, just to speak directly to the 2 vacancies, one of them has been filled and one is in the process of being filled. We did have someone accept. All those positions were EEO program analysts. Those are the people that are boots on the ground that get out and they do the audits. As far as what our positions look like, we have the 2 units. We have 3 people in our research unit. They're city research scientists. That's what they do. They do the research. On the other hand, our audit team is staffed with EEO program analysts. Right now, we will have 4 of them, and we have a manager. We don't have a director. I did not ask for a director in order to be as conservative as possible, but we lost our director / she was also serving as our executive agency counsel, so we don't have that as well. And
So is that the 2 vacancies?
no, the 2 vacancies right now are the EEO program analysts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you? Well, no, I won't ask that. Do you have any plans to fill the positions? Are you actively working to fill the positions? I know there was hiring freeze, but now it's lifted.
No, we are actively working to fill our vacancies, and we will almost have them filled. Our last vacancy was just accepted yesterday, so we'll be filling that within the next couple of weeks.
Awesome. What is EEPC's attrition rate?
I think our attrition rate has been fairly stable over the years, with the exception of last year. Last year was really, I think, an anomaly. We pretty much lost almost everybody in the audit unit. So I would say 3/4 of our audit unit left for various reasons. 2 of them left to take positions in other city agencies. 2 of them left to leave the city in its entirety. They left city government completely. And one of them left city government completely, but her reason for leaving was that she was burned out. So I'm losing people to burnout at this point.
I feel that. So just to talk a little bit about the work that you do, the auditing and annual reporting for employment practices, you mentioned that some agencies don't even have EEO officers. Can you share what agencies don't have EEO officers?
Excuse me. Off the top of my head, I can't really give you the names of the agencies, but I can get back to you with those agencies. Those agencies are either in the process of trying to hire people. There's been one that's been trying to hire an EEO officer for months, like 7 months. But it's generally speaking, a lot of EEO officers do other jobs, so they do that plus something else. So there could be turnover from their operational work as well as their EEO work. It just impacts us in that way. But I'll get that information to you.
So there are currently 145 entities within EEPC's jurisdiction, including the Office of the Mayor, all mayoral agencies, and the City Council. According to the City Charter, EEPC must audit the employment programs of these agencies at least once every 4 years to ensure that they comply with city, state, and federal regulations and requirements. Can you provide details to the committee on your audit work?
Specifically, we have a list of standards that we right now our standards are geared towards underutilization of women and people of color in the workplace. We use those standards to audit the programs and procedures of the agencies. And essentially what we do, how we do it is at the beginning of each year, we will launch what we call PICs, and these are questionnaires for the agencies to respond to and then provide documentation. They provide the responses to the PICs, and then we have assigned EEO program analysts to work with specific agencies to understand what documentation and information they're submitting in response to the questions. And then they work with our manager to make sure that the responses that the agencies are providing actually meets the standard for the PIC. And if that's so, then we don't do anything further with that. If not, then we may be issuing a corrective action. But it's a two-step process. We issue a preliminary determination first with the listing of any corrective actions, if any, and then we give the agency an opportunity to cure that. If they do cure it, then we're done. If they don't cure it, then we issue a final determination, and we give the agency 4 months to cure any corrective actions.
Thank you. Why are there only 18 agencies that are a part of the employment practices audit with the focus on underutilization as mentioned in the 2023 annual report that I need to read? I will read it.
Thank you for the question. So in that particular part of the report, we excluded community boards.
Okay. Do you typically characterize, is there a way that you characterize corrective actions as too many corrective actions? Like, I know you said on average some agencies have about 6. Is there a number where you're like, whoa, this is way too many? Or like, how do you calculate that?
Yeah, the maximum number of corrective actions that we have for this round of audits is 17. So sometimes agencies might have 17 corrective actions. Sometimes they might have 6 corrective actions. Sometimes they might have 2. It all depends on how their EEO officer responds to the questions and what information they provide.
How would you say city agencies are performing according to your audits?
I would say that they could do better. My goal is that there are no corrective actions, and I'm focused on a 0 corrective action response. But right now, we have far too many agencies with more than 10 corrective actions. And I think that
how many agencies, do you know how many agencies have more than 10 corrective actions?
Yeah.
And the agencies?
I can tell you that on average, where's my chart? I have a chart here. So last year we had a total of 43 agencies, but it also included a number of community boards. And I can tell you we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
What can you share who they are?
Yes. So with more than 10 corrective actions, at the final determination, we had Department of Consumer and Worker Protection with 16. We had Department of Probation with 10. We had the Board of Standards and Appeals with 12. We had that's what I see for the final determination. We had Department of Housing and Preservation Development. They had 15 at the preliminary. I hope that gives you a sense of what we're looking at.
Thank you. Are you seeing any similar compliance issues across agencies? So is there like one or two things
That are common?
yeah, and if can you share what they are?
Yeah. You want to take it? Training is a big one. A lot of the people that, like the EEO officer, the people that make the decisions for hiring, they haven't received training. Another one that is pretty large is whether or not the agency has distributed a copy of the EEO policy to all of its employees. What's another one also?
Reviewing
The plan with
underutilization, that kind of stuff. Too.
Yeah, another one that's big is reviewing reviewing their hiring practices, to sit down at least once a year to review their hiring practices to see if they've identified barriers to hiring and if whatever barriers have been identified are being addressed. That's a common one as well.
In terms of compliance, again, I wanted, for what we care about, right? I want to make a distinction between compliance and commitment. So the compliance is really a de minimis threshold. And at the APC, we really want to get beyond that. So you can have an agency that's compliant, let's say, and let's say New Yorkers, for the things that they really care about. For example, let's say for firefighters or fire supervisors, why are 88% of firefighters white in terms of supervisors? Why are 65% of all firefighters white? For New Yorkers, that's kind of like intraocular trauma. It hits you between the eyes. Like, that's the kind of things they care about. Why 99% of them male that are supervisors? Why? So if you go agency by agency by agency by agency and really tackle the issues that taxpayers and New Yorkers care about by having a representative bureaucracy and people that look and are from the communities in which they live, serve, and play, that's kind of like what I'm talking about in terms of foresight and commitment. So we definitely need to be funded fully for our auditing and monitoring mandates, but the resources and the foresight that I feel this independent non-mayoral commission ought to really spend some time on in terms of its expertise, time and energy and resources is on that foresight, on that beyond the horizon, in terms of getting a workforce that's aligned and representative of the New York City that we all know and live in.
Yeah, let's continue on that thread. So in terms of like foresight, and I hear what you're saying, like anybody can check a box, but that doesn't really tell the full story. So are there agencies that you do think, while they might be in compliance, the commitment level to equal employment practices is not there? And if so, why and who those agencies are? I know you just mentioned FD&Y, but are there any other agencies that have these glaring occupational segregation issues or other issues that, again, they might be in compliance of, state, city, federal EEO laws, but there are still significant disparities?
Yes. I'm embarrassed to say that we even have this beautiful graph and table that shows you agencies and how they get more people of color. The median salaries decreases. We have it by job type. There is serious occupational segregation in New York City bureaucracy in the public sector that needs to be looked at, particularly because occupational segregation is correlated with pay disparity, and there's genderized inequality and disparity within our ranks. So yes,
can you share like the positions? Or
they're
it can be macro. I think it would be important because this is a very important thing that I think is understated, and it's my source of frustration with both CCHR and EEPC not getting the adequate funding. And we always use the colloquial term drop and bucket, but the amount of money that we're talking about, considering we have over $100 billion budget in New York City between your two agencies, is legitimately like not even a drop. It like might be a mustard seed or like nano, like it's so small. And so it's like frustrating because, both agencies, commissions are doing work that supports larger issues. And if we are not being proactive and investing on the front end, it makes it that much harder to address issues on the back end and to at least challenge systematic institutional structures that have created these barriers in the first place. So yeah, I just think it's important for these things, because I know you have a beautiful audit that you did, but it would be so important to just get some of these things on record.
I just want to add that we are also joined virtually by Commissioner Ngozi Okoro as well. So if you see me texting, she's commenting.
So just a few examples, particularly for gender underutilization or occupational segregation, firefighters, police department, sanitation workers, laborers, craft, those kinds of jobs. In recent years, the NYPD has had trouble hiring black police officers is one that certainly comes to mind. Firefighters certainly are also very much, white male dominated. And then reversely, you have many job groups and titles that are disproportionately female and people of color that don't pay as much, social workers being an obvious example, So that's just a few.
And I'll also add EMS workers, which I had a busy week this week, as you know, Chair Williams, but they did just, I think, come out with an article on the fact that they're supposed to see a salary increase. So when we look at EMS workers versus firefighters, who makes up those two different departments and the salary disparities, those are the things that concern us. And we do have the data and the charts that we can send to the committee later. I know that work has been done.
Yep, thank you. EEPC oftentimes within the reports will provide several recommendations, corrective actions to agencies and entities. How often are these recommendations taken and established? And I know, again, I've had a lot of offline conversations about how another commission can hold another government agency accountable. Just a little tricky, but just would love some feedback on that.
You want to take that one?
So one of the things that we do is we look at underutilization, which is based on what the city says the labor market is, what percentage of people that want to be firefighters are female or black or Hispanic or all that. Those numbers have not been updated in over 10 years, so they're really out of date. We have heard, I don't know anything officially, but that DCAS is now starting the process of updating the availability estimates and updating its legacy software system that the database resides in. So that's one that at least it looks like things are moving. So that's at least one positive example. One other one, last year when we testified, I had said that one thing that we need is data, right? That the more that we have, the more we can do. And it was added to the legislation on the exit surveys that we have access to that data. It was actually added to the bill. That was great. So that was also a very positive thing.
Awesome. Well, I think that is all the questions that I have. Thank you so much for all of your hard work. And I do hope that, we all value this important work that you're doing for so many people in New York City that serve all of us here. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And if I could say, Chair, I know that, the city is in dire straits in terms of funding, but I do believe that a little bit of funding would help us to do more and to be able to help the city more. I believe it will be a great return on the investment that the city makes. This is not really just a plea just to build our agency. This is a plea to give you guys better work.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Want to thank you as well for your public service, that of your committee and the different members.
Oh, no problem.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you again for coming today. We will now turn to public testimony. I'd like to remind everyone before we start that Each panelist will have 2 minutes to present their testimony. No recording is permitted while presenting testimony. I will call individuals by name to step up to testify, and please begin once the sergeant had started the timer. Council member questions. I'll go back for council member questions after each panel has completed all of their panelists' testimony. So for our first panel, I'd like to invite Rebecca Cook-Mack, Connie Tycho, Tamir Williams, and Cristobal Gutierrez. All right, and if we could start on my left, your right, and then we'll just go down the way. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to present this testimony. I'm Rebecca Cook-Mack, Senior Staff Attorney in the Employment Law Unit of the Legal Aid Society, and I am here to ask you to take immediate action to increase the funding and staffing at CCHR and EEPC. The Commission is in crisis. It is unable to meet its mandate. Today, the Commission has less than 1/3 of the staff attorneys it had in 2018. As Council has expanded the civil rights protections for New Yorkers and given the job of enforcing that to the Commission itself has shrunk. Just a handful of attorneys cannot be expected to enforce the strongest human rights law in the country. Notwithstanding the testimony we heard today, limited staff means limited intake appointments. The number of complaints filed at the Commission has dropped precipitously. In FY18, just over 800 complaints were filed at the Commission. In FY 2023, that had dropped to just 340, a 42% reduction. Damages collected by the Commission have also dropped from over $8 million in 21 to just $4.6 million in FY23, an almost 50% reduction in just 2 years. And pro se callers wait months to get intake appointments. By any measure, the Commission is in crisis. The city must increase funding and lift hiring restrictions so that the Commission is no longer subject to the 2-to-1 hiring replacement rule by which it can only hire one person for every 2 departures. This policy is responsible for accelerating the crisis at the Commission, where we have so few staff, losing just 4 people can result in a 10% loss to our LEB unit that is critical for New Yorkers. It must be encouraged to promptly replace any departing staff. The Commission testified that hiring attorneys is the biggest challenge affecting them. They must be able to hire attorney 2s and 3s. People that get paid better will be more competitive and better able to do the job. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Tamir Williams. I'm a third-year law student at CUNY Law School, as well as a legal intern with the Disability Justice Program for the New York Lawyers for the Public Interest. So New York Lawyers for the Public Interest is also a member of the New York City Human Rights Law Working Group, and we submit this testimony to support the testimonies of our colleagues in this coalition and to amplify the testimony of the community members here today to support increasing the New York City Commission on Human Rights' budget. One of the most critical aspects of the Commission's work is prosecuting violations of the New York City human rights law on behalf of pro se litigants. Often the Commission provides the only opportunity for pro se litigants to enforce their civil rights. This is an indispensable and otherwise unavailable service to the people of the City of New York. Pro se litigants in particular are negatively affected by the results of the Commission's underfunding and understaffing, including lengthy wait times for intakes, cases taking years to be adjudicated, bad actors going unpunished, administrative hearings lingering with no resolution, and cases being administratively closed that could and should have been resolved. The process of filing and resolving complaints at the Commission has slowed and been to a standstill. In short, pro se New Yorkers are denied access to the one and only venues available to enforce their civil rights. To meet the incredible demand for the Commission's services, our coalition's budget ask for the fiscal year 2025 is as follows. Secure $3 million in new funding for the Commission's Law Enforcement Bureau. This funding would increase capacity at the LEB to mirror staffing levels in 2018, which requires adding at least 34 attorneys, 1 assistant commissioner, as well as supporting staff. Second, lift hiring restrictions and create new positions that would allow the Commission a 1-to-1 replacement for any staff turnover. Currently, the Commission can only hire 1 staff member for every 2 vacancies, which hinders its ability to quickly staff up to meet case urgency, as well as implement competitive salary rates. To attract and retain talent, the Commission must be allowed to raise salaries to compete with the nonprofit legal services providers in the city. Thank you for this opportunity, and I thank you for allowing us to testify.
Good afternoon. On behalf of the Free to Be Youth Project of the Urban Justice Center, I'd like to thank the New York City Council's Committee on Civil and Human Rights for convening this important hearing. My name is Connie Tico, and I'm a pro bono scholar, also a third-year law student working with Amy Leipziger, the director of the Free to Be Youth Project. Since 1994, Free to Be Youth has been a part of the Urban Justice Center, a nonprofit law collective serving New York City's most disenfranchised populations. At FYP, we serve homeless and at-risk LGBTQ youth by providing free legal services for young people up to the age of 24. Like the Urban Justice Center, the New York City Commission on Human Rights protects the rights of the most vulnerable New Yorkers. But the Commission is in crisis as funding has been slashed and headcounts dwindle, directly affecting our clients and other low-income New Yorkers. When many of our clients already face a number of stressors, including trauma, attempt to find shelter, they face discrimination due to transphobia and are often turned away and forced to live on the streets or in other unsafe environments. For example, one of our clients, a young transgender man, attempted to return to his bed upon discharge from respite. He was told that no transgender or GNC beds were available, and he could not have a male bed due to liability. The staff failed to provide him with services. Another client, a transgender woman who had legally changed her name and sex designation, was denied space at a female housing in Jericho project. The agent then placed her in house with 2 cis men, one of who threatened the client. Normally, we would recommend both of these clients to file with the Commission, but due to budget cuts these last few years, homeless youth now face long wait times to file a complaint with the Commission. These wait times stop our clients from obtaining the immediate relief needed, leaving them in unsafe conditions. Without a functioning Commission, young queer and trans, unhoused New Yorkers will continue to face discrimination and remain on the streets without a bed or protection. Thank you for listening.
Good afternoon. My name is Cristobal Gutierrez from Make the Road, New York, and you have my written testimony. I don't think I'm going to read it. We've just heard from the commissioner. I understand that there is a dancing of political power, but it's just ridiculous that we have to sit here and think that the commission is the most robust that it's ever been, because it's not. We represent immigrants, mostly undocumented workers. We have people that have gone through really horrible stuff. I put an example, a member that was trafficked by her employer, and she filed in 2022, and we just received the answer to our complaint. They tried to send it to mediation, where the mediator would have her meet her aggressor. So it's really dire. Our cases are not moving. Many people have probable causes that are just stacked. This is unattainable. If the federal administration changes in November and we're not ready for it as New Yorkers, we will suffer greatly, especially our most vulnerable. Thank you.
Thank you all for your patience in waiting to testify. just wanted to piggyback on some of the mention of the commission's testimony. And, if you listen to the testimony, it seems like everything's great. They mentioned that, for the first time, they're bringing more cases to oath than they've ever done before. But they also admit that there's only 25 people, and they previously had, I think I counted correctly, 62 people pre-pandemic. And so what do you say to that? Because, as a council member, it's really trying to find the true truth. And you have the agency on one side saying, everything's great and we have no problems. And then you have the advocates on the other side saying, this is a huge problem. And so what would your challenge be to this assertion that all is well and they're doing even more than they've ever done before with less staff? Anyone can answer.
My colleagues and I are spending our time filing appeals of administrative closures by the commission. We are not filing cases there. And I think that the reality of the advocate experience is fighting for the commission to do its job. And that is certainly what the working group has discussed. People do not, the working group of wide range of advocates, right, don't bring their cases there anymore. And the numbers, the numbers are clear. Complaints filed by the commission are down 42%. Do we think discrimination in New York City is down by 42%? As council has added responsibilities and obligations to the commission, it seems, it defies logic, right? So we simply don't agree with their assessment and don't understand how the commission, down to a really minimal number of staff and watching people walk out the door, right? How the commission is going to be ready on January 1st, 2025 when the new laws go into effect. And really it's distressing. It's distressing that the commission, testifies that it's able to meet its mandate when, the advocacy community has voted with its feet and are not bringing cases there because we do not believe our clients are well served or, and don't feel comfortable referring pro se people there because we don't believe our client, they will be well served by going to the commission. It's a real mismatch.
So if you don't go to the commission, are you just taking it straight to court?
So we, many advocates take different places. We're really wide range group of advocates. Some are housing, some are employment. So it depends on which advocate. We are filing at the EEOC, which is super troublesome if, a Republican gets elected in the White House because it's a federal agency, and if they're undocumented, as most of our members are, it's going to be horrible. And also the EEOC has higher standards of evidence, has 300 days to file. The commission has 3 years. So we're being asked to make an impossible choice between a bad remedy but getting something. And that is sad and troubling and frustrating. We're dedicating our time that should be dedicating to our clients in lobbying to get more funds for the commission. And that's not right.
I'm not an attorney, so this is a whole little panel of attorneys here and future amazing attorneys. So, because I asked the question about administrative closures, and the response was essentially we did these administrative closures for, I would say, legitimate reasons, it needed to be referred out, or it was something that we couldn't handle, maybe we don't have just whatever. And so I gather that is not your assessment. maybe you have a different opinion about why these administrative closures are happening. So if you can talk and give more details around your thoughts, opinions about administrative closures, because as a person who's not an attorney, when they responded, it was like, okay, these, I guess it could be for some legitimate reasons, but I gather that you don't think that's the case. It's why, as you mentioned, you are spending so much time appealing administrative closures.
Sure. We don't agree that the administrative closures are because they were non-jurisdictional or lacked merit. And I think neither would the commission if it looked at the cases that we see, because these are cases where the commission has in the past found probable cause existed, right? So very clearly they had jurisdiction. They found there was probable cause that discrimination had occurred. They thought there was merit, right? So and I think to say that we don't file cases with the commission that we think are meritless, right? That simply is not what the advocacy community is spending its time doing. So, when we say our cases that we filed at the commission, which we spent time developing and working with these clients, are being closed years later for administrative, convenience, I think we very strongly disagree with their proposition that those were non-jurisdictional meritless matters. And I think that so would their now almost certainly departed staff attorneys who had worked on those cases in the past and found cause, right? It's just that the experience and the statements don't match.
I also want to add that these are the things that we're seeing as attorneys for our clients. The vast majority of people that file at the commission do it pro se. They don't have an attorney, and they can't appeal rationally or making logic on a legal sense. It's really heartbreaking to watch the commission as it was in 2018 to what it is now. The enforcement guides, they were super expansive in interpreting the law. Our law is supposed to be super expansive, and it's just not doing it.
Yeah, I think that's one thing, and I know there's been talks about how to figure out ways to better support New Yorkers who are essentially filling out legal documents. I'm thinking about, super unrelated, but the comptroller claims forms. Like, you ask any attorney, that is a legal document that they are asking folks who are not in law school or don't have law degrees to fill out, that have legal ramifications. So I definitely hear that, and it definitely pisses me off, because I think there should be better support for folks who are seeking support and having to navigate a legal system without a legal background. Okay. I don't think I have any other questions. I appreciate you all very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you all very much, and I will call up our next panel. We have Amy Blumsack, Paul Keefe, and Jonathan Eber. Thank you all, and you can begin.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Amy Blumsack. I am the Director of Organizing and Policy at Neighbors Together. We submitted written testimony, so I'm going to skip over most of what we do. I will say that over 60% of our members are homeless. We're a community-based organization in Brooklyn, but we work with many, many voucher holders from all across the city. And we have been working with and organizing voucher holders since 2019. It's no secret that source of income discrimination is rampant. And while I think we have made headway with the advocacy we're doing, it is still extremely prevalent. And it is deeply depressing and stressful and dejecting to receive a voucher and think you're going to get housed with it and then not be able to find housing and being discriminated against at every turn. I will say that the SOI unit at CCHR plays a really critical role for our members. In particular, their pre-complaint intervention and set-aside program are extremely important and one of the largest ways that our members can access housing with their voucher. And I think that broadly, we heard that the SOI unit sits within the LEB, and so we also know that discrimination is like not siloed, right? People's identities are intersectional and they are discriminated against in many ways beyond just having a voucher. So we really do need to fund the Law Enforcement Bureau at higher rates. We are asking for an additional $3 million to bring it up to 2018 levels. And also we want more funding to be able to effectively enforce the new Fair Chance for Housing Act. We also want CCHR to be exempted from PEGs and hiring freezes. The work that they do is so important. And we've heard, I'm gonna run out of time, our members say over and over again that they wait months for intake appointments or to hear back from someone at the commission when they're filing formal complaints. And we've had many members whose cases have taken years to be resolved. And additionally, the turnover of staff is really detrimental because people who are homeless or unstably housed are really transient. It's hard. It's hard to have the same phone number all the time. And we've had many of our members lose touch with the commission altogether and vice versa because of the turnover rates at the commission. So the last thing I want to say is just that the salaries need to be raised. They're so uncompetitive and the hiring process takes so long, and we're losing good people who might actually want to do good for the citizens and other folks who live in New York, but can't because they can't afford to. I think a budget is a moral document, and the city is showing its values through where it puts its money, and the overall budget of the commission is less, it's like 0.02% of the entire city budget. So for the impact that this commission has with such a small budget, I think we should absolutely be pushing and yelling from the rooftops that the commission needs to be funded more robustly in order to protect all New Yorkers. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, and thanks for the opportunity to testify. My name is Paul Keefe. I'm Vice President for Legal Services at the Community Service Society of New York. We're a legal service organization that has filed cases at the Commission at the past, but I'm in a unique position in that I worked at the Commission for 7 years before going to CSS. I was a supervising attorney in employment, so I sort of witnessed the rise of the Commission and the fall. And you have my written testimony, but I do want to just highlight a couple things. The budgets that are being asked for are good, but they're still not enough. Especially when compared to the NYPD's budget, we're sort of saying that we value crime victims, justice for a crime victim, so much less than someone who's experienced sexual harassment. We throw good money after bad when we spend all this money on housing vouchers, but we don't have a source of income unit that can be robustly funded to enforce against landlords and brokers that don't accept those vouchers. And then I also wanted to just point out some hard numbers on salary. And so, we would lose people to legal services jobs. They would just want to work in housing court rather at the commission because they would make $5,000 to $6,000 more than they would at the commission. Similar roles at the Department of Consumer and Worker Protections, enforcing Fair Work Week and things like that. They make $9,000 more than a commission attorney. And then lawyers at the law department make $12,500 more than commission attorneys. And so the salary is a very big issue for a lot of people. And combined with that is that the collective bargaining agreement for the attorneys at the commission limits them to 35 hours a week. if you are coming in wanting to do work and someone says, and like going after and enforcing discrimination, and someone says you only have 35 hours a week to do that, people look at you like you have two heads because you go to legal aid or anywhere else and the hours are more than that. And it's not that people should be forced to work more. It just goes to show how key funding is, because they are limited by their number of hours. They need more money to hire more staff so they can address all of those cases with the time that they have. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jonathan Eber. I'm a program officer at Enterprise Community Partners. We are a nationwide affordable housing nonprofit. Thank you, Chair Williams, for the opportunity to testify today. I don't think I really have to explain sort of the detrimental impact that discrimination has. It exacerbates our affordable housing crisis. It entrenches segregation and inequality. And source of income discrimination in particular is really undermining all of the critical investments that New York City is making in rental assistance that are just such a pathway to housing stability for so many New Yorkers. In 2019, Enterprise led a coalition to outlaw source of income discrimination on the state level, and we've been active in the enforcement space ever since. And despite local protections being on the books for 10 years, it's still a rampant issue in New York City. It's the most common fair housing complaint type. And so that all just sort of speaks to the need to, for more enforcement resources and the fact that the issue hasn't been taken seriously. And in addition, the new Fair Chance for Housing Act will expand housing protections for New Yorkers impacted by the criminal legal system, very rightly beginning next year. So just echoing kind of the figures that other people are saying, we asked that CCHR be prioritized this year. The agency saw cuts in the November and January PEGs, and we urge the council to allocate an additional $3 million to the LEB specifically to bring staffing levels back to where they were in 2018. And we also urge the council to exempt CCHR from any future budget cuts or hiring freezes. And then also we request that the commission as a whole receive an additional $1.4 million to implement the Fair Chance for Housing Act, which will begin protecting New Yorkers next year. There's going to be a lot of rulemaking and public awareness that's going to be needed to get the law enforced and get tenants educated on their rights. So combined with our $3 million budget ask to staff up the LEB, our request, or Enterprise's request, is a total of at least $4.4 million beyond what the executive budget proposes. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. I had a question, because you did a comparison of positions that I believe are is the law department positions unionized?
I don't know, but they advertise their starting salary on their website, and it is $12,500 more than the advertised position for an agency level one at the commission.
Yeah, because the commission testified that it was on par with other agencies, so.
It's not true.
Okay.
I mean, and you can just look at the public job postings and see that.
Okay. And I'm sure you heard the questions that I asked the other panel, and anyone can answer, but would love to know your insider knowledge on how you feel about some of the things that were said, which, really paint this very rosy picture that everything's okay.
I mean, it's not okay at the commission. Still knowing people who work there, it's not okay, and I know a lot of people who have left since. You had questions about how you can sort of, what numbers you can ask for to dig into that a little bit more. I would ask about the caseloads that each attorney is handling. It should be about 30 or 40 at the most, but I'm sure they're much larger than that. I would ask for how many cases are waiting to be assigned from attorneys who have left. That is usually a large number. And then I would ask what it means to have a case at oath, because that can just be referring the case to oath and asking for that process to start, which is the next thing that happens after a probable cause determination and there's no settlement. And it's also not very impressive that there's more cases at oath than usual, because in the past we've had like 2 or 3 a year, because they become more intensive because it is actual litigation and it's not a process that we control, because now we're handing it over and there's an administrative law judge that we have to prove our case to. Before that, it's completely within the investigators power to do everything, to ask for documents, to interview witnesses. So we lose a lot of control once a case is referred to oath.
Why do you think more cases are now in oath? Like, do you, like, if, I know you're not there, but if you could make an assumption, because she really used that to sort of tout their ability to do a lot with a little. So if you're saying that's not anything to really brag about, because essentially what it might also tell us is that the commission isn't really doing all that they can, potentially, to provide some type of pre-complaint intervention. I know that came up a lot. So yeah, just wondering what your thoughts are on that.
I don't think it says that the commission isn't doing enough, but it is the step that you take if you can't settle the case. If you find a probable cause and the defendant will not settle with you, you have to refer it to oath and take it to trial, and that's the next step. So what that says to me is there is this large backlog of cases where the investigation has been completed and there's nothing left to do because they're not going to settle with you, so you got to refer them to oath. And I will say, to the commission's credit, their pre-complaint intervention tools have always been very successful. And specifically around source of income discrimination, specifically around when people need an accommodation to physically leave their apartment because they're disabled, things like that where a timely intervention can help. That is a powerful remedy that the commission has. But again, they should have more resources to do that, because there still isn't enough for that. They should be able to act quicker on that.
Thank you. I don't know if anyone wanted to answer anything else. Other than that, I think I'm good. If you want to answer anything, feel free. If not,
I think I just wanted to say that I agree with a previous panelist who was saying there are political considerations when the commission is answering questions about what do they need and what, how are they doing. And I think sort of their back is against the wall. I know for SOI complaints, so much more needs to be done, and they work very hard to help our members. One thing that I'm curious about, which I feel like sort of goes to what Paul was saying, is, one area I would be curious to explore more is data tracking. You asked about open data. I think it's not always, to me at least, it doesn't always feel transparent or clear about what is the data that's being tracked. How is the commission defining the data that they're tracking? What outcomes are they tracking, and how are they defining those things? And what are all the things that they're not tracking that could give us a clearer sense of their success or where their challenges lie? And I think having more access to that kind of data would ideally give us a more objective look at how things are going, because it seems like for them there's only so much that they can say here. There's they have a boss, they have to be responsible to their boss, and I think that's understandable, but it doesn't always paint an accurate picture of what's going on the ground.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. And we have one more in-person panel that I would like to call. Allegra Fischel, Kate Discus, and Nicole Lanice-Jacques. All right, thank you. When you're ready, you can start.
Good morning. My name is Nicole Lanice-Jacques. I'm a part of Unlock NYC's Leadership Collective. Unlock NYC is a nonprofit that assists voucher holders who have faced discrimination based on their source of income. Additionally, Unlock NYC collaborates with legislators and advocates to uphold fair housing rights for individuals. I'm here today to give my testimony on how budget cuts contributed to my homelessness. In the winter of 2022, I received my City FIPS voucher to assist me with future rent. From the winter of 2022 into the summer of 2023, I viewed and applied to dozens of apartments throughout New York City. Unfortunately, during my search, I experienced a lot of discrimination because I was a voucher recipient. However, after discovering Unlock NYC, I was able to report people through their platform. Then on January 30th, 2023, I was contacted by CCHR's Law Enforcement Bureau stating that I would receive an appointment. At this point, I was unaware of the staff shortage at CCHR. However, it wasn't until April 2023 that I received an email about an in-person appointment that was scheduled for August of 2023. Once I met with an attorney, I was given two options. One was a pre-complaint intervention, which aimed.
Hey, I'm sorry. I don't mean to cut you off. You said that. I'm trying to understand this timeline. You said they reached out. You filed the complaint. When did you file the complaint?
It was in January
of 2023.
Mm-hmm.
And then you did not hear from them
till April.
To April 2023 for an appointment in August of 2023.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry. Okay. No, you're fine. Okay, I said August of 2020. So once I met with an attorney, I was given two options. One was a pre-complaint intervention, which aimed to secure comparable apartments. The other was for them to draft up a complaint, on my behalf. Initially, I chose the pre-complaint intervention, but unfortunately, it didn't work out, so I had to file a complaint. At first, the LEB attorney assigned to me was responsive and stayed in touch. However, after my complaint was signed and notarized in November of 2023, I didn't receive any communication until March of 2024. It has been almost a year and a half since I first reported voucher discrimination to CCHR, and I still remain unhoused. I have stayed in shelters, medical respite centers, couch surfed with friends, and had my life and health upended by this grueling housing search. This predicament is unfair and avoidable. I firmly believe that if CCHR had a larger budget and more staff with better wages, this entity would be able to mitigate claims before their statute of limitation elapsed. Since this is not the case, some agents and landlords will continue to discriminate against voucher holders. It's imperative not to cut budgets from city entities that are supposed to be the backbone of New Yorkers. New Yorkers' human rights. It costs more to have clients in the shelter system than them to have their own apartments. Please take a stance against budget cuts that contribute to homelessness in New York City. To this day, I haven't been able to fully recover physically, emotionally, and mentally because justice wasn't served. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Allegra Fischel. I am the founder and executive director of the Gender Equality Law Center, a not-for-profit law firm based in Brooklyn. I've also been practicing civil rights law for over 25 years in New York City, and I am testifying on behalf of my personal knowledge of people that have filed with the commission and also hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of other cases because I'm very interconnected with the private bar in New York City. And first, I want to say that listening to the commission today, I wondered what planet I was on because nothing they said really made sense to me as an advocate. I am not here to challenge their capability or talent, but what I am saying is that the process is absolutely broken. What my colleagues mostly say to me is if you want a case to die, you file it with the city commission. Frequently, we get calls from people every month saying they missed a statute of limitations because no one called them back. The case length usually is between 4 and 6 years. My clients have died or moved out of state because they can't wait any longer for a resolution. People who lose their jobs or lose housing are not in a great place. There is an economic unraveling, their families are harmed, it's devastating for them, and they become a liability not just for themselves, but for the city. I also want to say that in terms of staffing, while I think that the salaries could be increased, I know plenty of people that are willing to work there, but there is some issue of morale. Some of the best civil rights lawyers I've known in a generation have left the commission in the last 3 to 5 years. I don't know why, but a lot of people have left, and it's not because of the salaries. I just also want to say that there really is no other place for folks to go pro bono or represented by, free legal services, which my organization is one of. Many cases aren't covered by the EEOC or the state division because federal laws have different requirements than the city, and the same goes for the state. And almost no low-wage folks are filing lawsuits by themselves in state court and federal court. That takes a lawyer to do. The amount of money has to be increased. It's like desperate to have this agency truly function. I was lucky enough to hear Speaker Adams' State of the City address on Wednesday, and I was so inspired. But most of what she's proposing can't be done unless you have a city that takes discrimination seriously. Even in 2018, there wasn't enough staff. But right now, it is completely dysfunctional and unusable, and it is not giving any relief to the really millions sometimes of New Yorkers that need assistance. There are 4.5 million working adults in New York most of the time, and this city needs to take some responsibility to ensure that they do not face barriers to economic equality. And by the way, I really appreciated your little mustard seed. I actually had to have my husband do the math, but the city, the allocation now is less than 0.02% of the budget of probably the wealthiest city in the United States, much less maybe the world. I don't know. Thank you very much.
Man, those are some hard acts to follow. Hi, I'm Kate Tiskus. I work with Collective Public Affairs, and the reason that I'm here testifying in this hearing today is I wanted to talk a little bit about how, first of all, I support all of my colleagues and advocates who have been up here talking about how the commission really needs more money in the executive budget in order to fulfill the mandate that has been put before it, but also to sort of talk a little bit about what happens to some of these folks who require wraparound services when they can't get it through the discrimination that they're facing that they would otherwise bring through the commission. And the short answer is one way that City Council has been helping to fill the gap as agencies have been unable to sort of step up and do what they need to do is with City Council initiative programs. And so, some of the initiatives that I work with include the Domestic Workers and Employers Empowerment Initiative, where people can learn more about what their rights are and learn more about what they can practically do outside of an enforcement mechanism when that might be clunky or impractical. The Trans Equity Initiative, I know I don't have to tell you that it's a scary time to be a trans New Yorker, let alone a trans anywhere else, and it's only getting scarier. And so ability to access services other than through adjudication is something that all of those partners work really hard on, from health to housing and otherwise. The Pride at Work Initiative, support for persons in the sex trades, initiative to combat sexual assault, where women's rights are human rights, and a lot of very practical fallout can happen after you've experienced a sexual assault incident, and figuring out what to do about your housing can be very complicated. So as much as I really want to double down on and support that the Commission on Human Rights badly needs more budget, I also want to sit here and say some of the stopgap services that are picking up where the Commission currently can't because of their staffing levels, many of whom you've heard from today, many of whom are funded through the city. They also can't fall by the wayside as we look for sort of like tightening budget year.
Thank you. I appreciate you coming. and sharing your story. Thank you.
Thank you.
Long day for you.
Thank you very much. And I believe that that is everyone that I had for in-person testimony. If I missed you, please fill out a slip. For now, we will turn to the Zoom. I believe that we have 4 people on Zoom, so I will call you in this order. We'll start with Taber Benedict. We'll go to Nicolin Plummer, then Julia Elmala Sachs, and then finally Wendell Walters. So we'll start with Taber Benedict.
Thank you, Council Committee Chair Williams and members of the committee for the opportunity today to provide testimony. My name is Taber B. Benedict. I'm the housing advocate of the Fortune Society's David Rothenberg Center for Public Policy. I'm also a lawyer and went to Columbia Law School. Fortune is a 57-year-old organization that supports successful reentry from and promotes alternatives to incarceration. We believe in the power of people to change. As a part of that work, we co-led the Fair Chance for Housing campaign and are here today to support additional funding for the Commission on Human Rights. There are approximately 750,000 people who have conviction records in New York City. For people with convictions, 2 of the most challenging barriers to success in the community include employment and housing discrimination based on legal system involvement. The lack of access to housing contributes to the challenge of finding a job and vice versa. Housing and employment discrimination based on conviction records perpetuates homelessness and undermines family mobility and success across generations. Discrimination based on records is also a racial justice issue because our criminal legal system disproportionately impacts people of color. For example, of the 750,000 people with records in New York, 80% are people of color. New York City's bold legislative solutions to these immense problems, the Fair Chance for Housing Act and the 2015 Fair Chance Act regarding employment, require impactful implementing and enforcement efforts by the Commission. Therefore, it is necessary that additional funding be allocated to the Commission above and beyond what was set forth in the mayor's prelim budget. New York City prides itself on being at the forefront of protecting human rights. Nevertheless, for years, the Commission has been underfunded compared to similar agencies in smaller cities. Additionally, the Commission must receive holistic agency-wide funding to conduct robust education and hire additional staff. We therefore call on the Commission to be exempt from future budget cuts or hiring freezes and also call for additional funding beyond what was set forth in the fiscal impact statement. Expanding resources for the Commission will show that New York City is truly committed to advancing and protecting human rights in 2024 and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I believe we have Nicolin Plummer. And do we need an accommodation for this speaker? Nicolin Plummer?
I'm not speaking.
You may begin.
Sorry, I'm not speaking. You can skip.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to Julia Elmala Sachs.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to testify at this morning's hearing. My name is Julia Elmala Sachs, very good pronunciation. I'm a lawyer at Camiller PC, the feminist litigation firm, and a member of the Legislative Committee of the National Employment Lawyers Association, the New York affiliate. NELA New York comprises about 350 New York lawyers who primarily represent employees. We submit this testimony today to implore the city to take immediate action to increase the funding and staffing of the New York City Commission on Human Rights, which is charged with the duty of eliminating and preventing discrimination in New York. New York City has as you all know, what has often been described as the most protective and strongest human rights law in the entire country. The City Council has frequently added additional important protections against discrimination, such as protections against height and weight discrimination and source of income protections, and launching public education campaigns, ensuring the public knows that they are entitled to further protections from discrimination. However, the reality is that because of repeated staffing and budgetary decisions, the much vaunted New York City human rights law has been drastically and embarrassingly weakened. In our experience, employers bent on violating the law are well aware that at present there is profoundly insufficient government enforcement. The burden for enforcing the law therefore falls largely on those individual employees who have the resources and ability to avoid the commission altogether by retaining private counsel and sustaining years of often re-traumatizing litigation in court. These cases routinely drag on for years and typically settle privately for money damages and no injunctive relief. So there is little incentive for employers to change their behavior and no record keeping or oversight to present offenders from routinely violating the law.
Time expired.
Ordinary citizens who lack the resources or desire to engage in expensive, intrusive litigation have no realistic method for timely vindicating their rights, since at present, there is an average 6-month wait for a pro se intake interview at the commission. Not surprisingly, the result is that far fewer citizens than in the past bother to exercise their rights at the commission, and the commission's overall fine and damage collection numbers have plummeted. In short, the city has chosen to use its budgeting and staffing powers to weaken a once proud and impactful agency into a shrinking bureaucracy seemingly destined for insignificance. In order to begin to turn the tide, the commission's budget must be expanded from the current $13,652,383 in the mayor's preliminary budget proposal right now to at least $18 million. What would be a significant budget increase for the commission, as you said, council member, is an insignificant rounding error for the city. Further, the city must lift hiring restrictions so that the commission is no longer subject to a 2-to-1 hiring replacement rule by which it can only hire one person for every 2 departures. This policy is responsible for accelerating the crisis the commission is facing, since the remaining staff are forced to take on more work with no relief and at uncompetitive salaries. This citywide budget measure has a disproportionate impact on the commission because it is so small. With less than 20 Law Enforcement Bureau staff attorneys, 4 departures could reduce the LEB unit by 10% while saving the city virtually no money. The commission must be exempt from this policy. It must be encouraged to promptly replace any departing staff members. The commission must be permitted to hire at the agency 2 and 3 attorney levels to attract the best talent. The commission will not be able to rebuild if it offers its employees jobs promising low salaries and large caseloads. In conclusion, while the City Council has every reason to be proud of the broad protections against discrimination contained in the human rights law, a well-staffed and proactive commission is absolutely necessary for protecting these rights. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And then we will go to Wendell Walters. And after Wendell has finished, we'll try to come back to Nickolyn Plummer.
Thank you, Chair Williams and the committee members for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Wendell Walters. I'm the manager for policy and advocacy at the Osborne Association. As many of you know or may know, Osborne is one of the oldest and largest criminal justice service organizations in the state. We serve 10,000 participants in programs from arrest to reentry. We have offices in Harlem, Brooklyn, Buffalo, Newburgh, White Plains, and Troy, and our headquarters is in the Bronx. We also have programming in 41 state prisons and in Rikers Island. Through advocacy, direct service, and policy reform, Osborne works to create opportunities for people to heal, grow, and thrive. Yes, there are 750,000 people in New York City with a conviction history who experience perpetual punishment due to their record after they have served their time. This large community of people, 80% of whom are black and brown, endure widespread discrimination in all manners of life. For years, many of them have been excluded and restricted from where they can work, where they can live, what licenses they can possess, what benefits they can be eligible for, where they can vote, and where they can travel. This past December, the council took the important step in reducing barriers for the previously incarcerated with the passage of the Fair Chance for Housing Act. After years of unwavering advocacy, including the dedicated efforts of more than 100 organizations, including Osborne and Fortune, they make up the Fair Chance for Housing Coalition. Landlords are now limited in their use of criminal background checks. We are thankful for the leadership of this committee, the bill's chief sponsor, Councilmember Keith Powers, and his staff for their patience and commitment to this cause. We now enter the implementation phase to ensure this law leads to fairness and opportunity. We must now put all of our effort to ensure the requirements under the law are fully enforced. The Fair Chance for Housing Coalition will continue to advocate on behalf of the law and do our part to make sure landlords adhere to the new restrictions. But the burden, as we all know and have heard throughout the day, falls to the City Commission on Human Rights. It's no secret that the commission is underfunded compared to the similar agencies in smaller cities. Despite rising workload, they have done as much as they can with far less resources. We support the commission's necessary funding and levels to enforce and educate the public on the Fair Chance for Housing law. However, given their current staff shortages, we ask the council not just to fund additional attorneys and investigators, but to also fund their operational needs, including public education efforts. We're wrapping up. Osborne remains excited about the passage of the Fair Chance for Housing Act. This act removes what was once an insurmountable barrier and creates a greater opportunity for housing for those with prior convictions. Providing the commission with the resources they need to meet this obligation is critical. We will submit our full written statement to the committee later today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we've learned that Nicolin will not be presenting testimony, so I believe that wraps up our public testimony, unless there are any questions.
Nope. I just want to thank every single person for their patience and for testifying today. And I look forward to a robust budget negotiation that centers human and civil rights. And with that, this committee meeting is adjourned.